Is the reporter coming? Well, you know, I want to sit up front. Yes, because I couldn't hear. Oh, yeah, okay. Here we go. So here it is. See, this is the original. This is the one presented by Richard. Okay.
Right, and where does that come up? That comes up when she goes to
here.
Resolution.
Yep.
So when we go to talk about this,
yes, and just read your statement and say.
And then I follow with it.
It was yes, and the public's been provided this. It says presented by Richard Wasserman. Everyone got this.
All right.
Yep.
So it's right here. So
yep. Not the table.
First.
Yep. Yep. And then this is for editing. Okay.
Well, one of these words.
Of course. Of course.
Let me bring Sanjeev on when he's. And then, Mayor, you want Dan Barron during the presentation?
Oh, he's going to come on for the presentation.
As a panelist.
As a panelist, yeah, he's going to speak.
Just during the presentation.
Oh.
All right. Yes. Yeah.
And so I will. You're going to report on some crowds.
Jesse, can you hear me? Testing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Christine, can you hear me? No, I just want to make sure this was okay.
I can hear you, Richard. Hello.
Yes, can you guys hear me too?
Hi, Sanjeev.
Hello.
Looks like we're waiting for Committee Woman Miggins. 7 o'clock. There she is. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Miggins?
Here.
Ms. Stahl-Eglow?
Here.
Mr. Vinayak?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Prupus?
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Committeeman Vinayak, do you want to take yourself off mute so that we can hear you participate? Awesome, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the July 16th, 2021 Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the July 30th, 2021 Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the August 13th, 2021 Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the August 17th, 2021 regular Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the August 24th, 2021 Special Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. May I have a motion to approve the August 25th, 2021 Special Township Committee minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Miggins, you are up to present the International Stuttering Awareness Day.
Yes, I am. Shall we do it from the front?
Whereas October 22nd, 1998 was designated as International Stuttering Awareness Day to celebrate people who stutter. Stuttering is a complex communication difficulty that affects more than 70 million people worldwide and more than 3 million people in the United States. And whereas stuttering is primarily neurological and or genetic in nature, in which the flow of speech is interrupted by stuttering events such as repetitions, prolongations, or interjections, stuttering is not emotional or psychological, and it is not caused by nervousness or anxiety. Whereas stuttering research has shown that boys stutter more than girls, and that while 75% of children grow out of stuttering by the age of 5, 25% of people who stutter as children do not grow out of it. Whereas people who stutter, PWS, are often teased and frequently experience shame, guilt, and fear of speaking situations, as well as encounter discrimination in employment and in other areas because of stuttering, misconceptions, myths, and stigmas. Whereas research has shown that the more open a person is about their stuttering, the less severe the stuttering may be. And while there is no cure, speech therapy and support groups have helped to foster ideas of acceptance, management, and a fantastic quality of life. Whereas people who stutter are individuals that lead amazing lives and are just as smart and funny and extroverted as people who do not stutter. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township Committee of the Township of Millburn in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, do hereby recognize October 22nd, 2021 as International Stuttering Awareness Day and urge residents to become better educated about stuttering acceptance and to help decrease the stigmas of stuttering in the community. Signed by Mayor. Mayor, do you want to come take a photo with me for that? Sure. Thank you so much for coming. So important. Thank you so much.
Just want to say thank you so much for honoring him. This is Jacob Kerwin.
Hi, Jacob. Well, how old are you? 9. Ooh. Wonderful. Where are you in school?
4th grade.
4th grade. Awesome. Awesome. Well, come take a picture with the
Thank
mayor.
you so much. Hi. How are you? We're so good.
How are you? I'm Maggie Mays. It's my pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Come take a picture with our mayor. Here, this is for you, young man. Did you want to say a few words? No. All right. Yeah, make sure. Yes, yes. Come here. I'll take a photo. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kamsi, and I am 11 years old. Many famous and successful people stutter. Stuttering is no one's fault. If you stutter, you are not alone, and you can grow up to become successful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Okay, so our next, we have two proclamations, or one proclamation for two very important and generous, kind, and just service-oriented women. So Joanna Parker-Lentz and Nicole Richter, would you like to come up? How's that? Is that better? Do we think we can hear? Great. Okay. Whereas Millburn Township Committee values the contributions of volunteers in the township and recognizes outstanding volunteer efforts that reflect the giving spirit of our community and enhances our quality of life. And whereas Joanna Parker-Lentz and Nicole Cohen-Richter are each amazing volunteers with specialized talents and have made many contributions to our community by actively serving the township in a variety of capacities. And whereas on September 1st, 2021, an emergency arose with respect to severe weather conditions and flooding resulting from Hurricane Ida, which devastated homes and businesses in the township of Millburn. And whereas Joanna Parker-Lentz and Nicole Cohen-Richter immediately stepped up to assist in Hurricane Ida recovery and relief efforts and volunteered to manage and assist their community in need in many ways, including creating and sharing Google spreadsheets of businesses and residents in need of assistance, organizing lists of open businesses, creating GoFundMe accounts for businesses and families desperately in need of financial help, and assisting with providing appropriate valuable resources to residents pertaining to insurance, FEMA, and other available financial funding. And whereas Ms. Parker-Lentz and Ms. Cohen-Richter continue to work with advocacy and neighborhood groups, in addition to plumbers, contractors, realtors, mental health professionals, and others who want to volunteer to assist their community. And whereas thousands of individuals offer their service and time to various endeavors without expectation of any personal remuneration other than the satisfaction in knowing that they have helped others and the untiring work of volunteers, while certainly appreciated, too often goes without adequate recognition of the valuable contribution that is made. Now, therefore, I, Tara B. Prupus, Mayor of the Township of Millburn, on behalf of members of the Township Committee, on this 19th day of October, 2021, extend thanks and appreciation to Joanna Parker-Lentz and Nicole Cohen-Richter for their selfless dedication to the community, especially those in need, and for providing inspiration to all.
Thank you so much to the committee. I just want to say that the work that we were able to accomplish could not have been made possible without the support of the residents of Millburn. And we are truly, truly grateful. There's a large team of people behind us. And so if you're watching or reading this after the fact, I just want you to know that you are appreciated. And I know you're not up here, but we stand here representing you as well. And I also just want to say to anyone who has survived the tragedy of Hurricane Ida, if you're still in need of help in any way, please do reach out to us. We have therapists who can help you process the loss. And we still have furniture and clothing and things like that to donate. So please do reach out if you've not heard from us or spoken to us and you're not part of the social networks in the town and you hear about this, please do reach out. We're here for you.
And a big thank you to Mayor Prupus, who engaged us to begin with. So when people get activated, I thank you for getting us involved. I know we're big volunteers, but if you don't ask, you don't get people like us to say yes. So thank you, Tara.
We're going to continue with reports. Committeeman Vinayak, do you have any reports tonight?
No report, Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman, do you have any reports tonight?
No reports, Mayor.
Committeewoman Miggins, do you have any reports tonight?
I do. This is about the library. The library is now open and functioning quite nicely, and they're pop-up at the Old Annie Says. So they're thrilled with how well it seems to be going over there. They also asked that I let everyone know there are chess classes that are drop-ins on Saturdays. They have a master chess teacher, and beginners 1 to 2, intermediate 2 to 3:20 p.m., and then advanced 3:25 to 4:55. So beginner classes are 60 minutes, and then as you improve, your classes get longer. There are dates available October 16th, 20th, and 30th, and the fees are $20 each time you go, just so you know. And that's the Friends of the Millburn Library that have that. And then also there is a museum night on Wednesday, November 10th. It's a virtual program, and it's a MoMA lecturer, Larissa Balif, and she's going to be talking about women artists, which is lovely. And from women artists in Italy, 1500 to 1800. And so if you wish to register, you register questions, friends at millburnlibrary.org. And that's all I have for you.
Committeewoman Eglo, do you have any reports tonight?
Yes, thank you. So it's a little premature, but you all know we're in the process of forming a flood mitigation advisory committee. So last night I had the opportunity to meet with, I see everyone I Zoomed with last night, we Zoomed for about an hour and a half. I was able to share what I know from my history, from my knowledge, what I've experienced personally, what I've experienced in the community. And I learned a lot. I said, I want to thank you all for sending your pictures. I asked you if you could please forward the pictures. We got your whole file. It was sent to all of us. I did have a chance to look at them. I know they look like firsthand. I hope my committee members had a chance to look at your pictures to see exactly what your homes look like, what the aftermath of what Joanna and Nicole are actually referring to. It's really important, and I appreciate you all giving me an hour and a half last night. And we hear you, we're here for you. It's really important that we get, as I said to you last night, we get this committee to advise the township committee the direction we should be looking, the full fix from downtown to the neighborhoods, what we can do from the reservation to protect our incredible town and our businesses and our residents. Thank you.
Well, one of the things about the committee meetings is we actually ask that you do not clap. And so it's just a standard practice that we have in the room. So please just hold your applause.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Carney, do you have any reports for tonight?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I just wanted to report that Judge Gardner signed on October 14th the order that was prepared and submitted on behalf of the township establishing the fairness hearing for December 15th, and that the temporary immunity that has been granted to the township is extended to the day after that fairness hearing is completed. This is on the settlement agreement between the township, Fair Share Housing Center, 249 Millburn LLC, and Woodmont Properties.
Great, thank you. Mr. McDonald, do you have any reports?
Yes, just two brief reports. The first is I just wanted to report that the township has submitted a Safe Routes to Schools grant on Old Short Hills Road for the Deerfield section, which is a grant to put in sidewalks where a goat path or an asphalt path currently exists, and make some connections to the school there for safe travel, particularly of those kids that live on the other side of South Orange Avenue and are looking to walk to school. We have submitted that last Friday, and we will certainly report back to the committee when we hear any news of the outcome of that. The other report I wanted to make was just, it's a little premature as it is on the agenda tonight, but just wanted to update the committee that we've been working a lot toward a traffic signal at the intersection of Hobart Gap. And we are finally in a position to approve the last piece of property that needed to be, an easement needed to be acquired for traffic signal equipment, as well as some property needed to be taken to put in a dedicated left-hand turn for that intersection. This intersection has been identified throughout the years as a particularly dangerous intersection, not only by Essex County, but once we started investigating this and had NV5 take a look at the intersection and do a signal warrant analysis. So we're pleased to be moving forward with this particular project.
Okay, thank you. So every Friday at 8:30, Community Women Miggins and I and our subcommittee meet to discuss 11 Main Street, and we'll just do a little update. The RFQ went out, Mr. McDonald. The RFQ went out. I'm going to help you help us do the update. The RFQ went out.
No problem. Yes.
The RFQ went out.
Correct.
The survey is being worked on.
Correct.
It's coming in before 10/22, right?
Yes, it should be in today or tomorrow.
Today. Perfect.
Yeah. Right.
The Jorge Mastro Pietro and his firm is working on the concept plan. They will be here on the 9th with our town planner topology to present that to the public. The committee's supposed to, we'll see that before that as well.
Yes, correct.
There's okay, so, and when the draft RFQ will be coming, what do we know when that's due back?
Yeah,
11/5.
Correct.
November 5th. Okay. So just want to let the public know what that process is. The Environmental Commission met on 10/12, and we discussed this 11 Main Street. Jorge Mastro Pietro is also on the planning board. He sits on the Environmental Commission. He sits on the planning board as an Environmental Commission liaison. And he brought up he showed the plan to the Environmental Commission so that they could have input on different green elements of that building. We also talked about flood mitigation and the need for someone who's on that flood mitigation. It was brought up the desire and their need for somebody who is on the Environmental Commission also to be on the flood mitigation advisory board. So that conversation was had, and then we told them that it was tabled at the last meeting, or I told them it was tabled at the last meeting, and to reach out to my colleagues. And on 10/13, we had our evening PSAB meeting, and we decided that next year that there will be 5 PSAB meetings, 4 morning meetings. So that's 1 more in addition to what we have this year. So 4 morning meetings and 1 evening meeting. We talked about safe routes to school. We talked about the traffic circles in South Mountain. And so that went through the traffic management. Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, the original issue at Locust and Ridgewood had come through the traffic issues management policy and was being evaluated in particular in that meeting as the question had come up about signage at that intersection that doesn't exist, where in other intersections it does, to let people know to stay to the right of the circle and things like that. We discussed the possibility of putting in some additional signage there and or some flexible posts as a temporary solution to create some safety in and around that particular intersection.
So that conversation is still in process. Speed bumps. Do you want to just give a quick explanation of how speed bumps get placed in?
Yes. You know, I know that, you know, and this is a really good point. We did bring this up during the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board meeting, that, you know, the request for speed humps is a natural one. I think people always assume that that's the best traffic calming or speed reduction method. However, there are several rules that surround the installation of speed humps, in particular the volume of traffic, whether they're necessitated by the speed on the roadway, and other factors that can be found on the township's website as to a policy that surrounds the installation of speed humps. And also just from the standpoint of, from our standpoint as the operations, the emergency vehicles, fire trucks don't have a particularly good time with speed humps. Plows do not have a good time with speed humps. But, you know, it's not something, it's a natural reaction to say we should put in speed humps, but it's not always possible.
Okay. And then there's an issue at Glen and is it Woodcrest that's being resolved or
Correct.
Discussed and addressed?
It is going to be resolved. There's some markings, roadway markings, painting that are going to be done, as well as addressing some site triangles and sight lines as Woodcrest. Along Glen Avenue, there are several private roads that enter into Glen Avenue, Woodcrest, Burnside, things like that. But we're going to address some of those sight lines as well as making markings on the Glen Avenue to make those intersections more visible.
Okay, great. Sunday was a really was a big day in Millburn. We had the Tour de Millburn in the morning, which had a great turnout. And I just want to thank Jennifer Duckworth, Jorge Mastro Pietro, Priya Patel, Gaston was there volunteering as well, and Alex Saltzman. It was sponsored by Cycle Bars. So Jennifer Duckworth came and Jorge Mastro Pietro. So Bike Walk Millburn was there, Environmental Commission was there, PSAB was there, and then our Cycle Bar. So it was a really fun activity and it was beautiful weather. And then we had the mud ball in the late afternoon, early evening. I just want to give a shout out to Wendy Missum, who did an incredible job of putting that event together. They raised $48,000, $500 for the businesses, both within and without the, within and not within the business improvement district. So that was a great event. And then Communal and Eglo and I were at the opening night for the paper mill. So Songs of Myself is now showing. If you haven't gotten tickets to go see it, go. It's a great show, and we're so excited that the paper mill is back open. You have to have a vaccination card and wear a mask, and we're just really happy to see them open. Alex, quick question about FEMA. How much did the town put in for FEMA?
You mean for public assistance?
Yeah, for the township.
Yeah, for our operations and damages to the stormwater system or roadways or our own buildings, emergency protective services, as well as debris removal. We are in the ballpark, and Jesse might want to help me out with this, but we're approaching $1 million.
Right, and then I'm going to talk about some work that I've been doing on flood mitigation this past week. So on 10/11, I had a meeting with Mayor Prunty from Cranford. We have been talking every day about different flood mitigation efforts, especially the consensus plan and the bypass at the Orange Reservoir. So we met with Mayor Prunty and Engineer John Rushke from Mount McDonald, and we were preparing for a meeting that we had with the mayors of the Rahway River Council. So for that, the mayors in that group are Cranford, Millburn, Springfield, Union, Rahway, Kenilworth, and Maplewood. So in preparation, we had met with John Rushke to talk about the bypass plan. Then on the 13th, we met with Assembly John McKeon to talk about New Jersey funding the bypass plan, because as of before, all the conversations had been about federal funding for this flood mitigation project and having FEMA come in. And the conversation really needs to be shifted towards a local and regional funding mechanism to get the project done, because we can't wait for the Army Corps of Engineers, because it will be 5 to 7 years before we see them do anything there. So I've been working diligently on that with the other mayors in communication and moving that along. We met with the commissioner. I think I reported this at the last meeting, but we met with the commissioner from the DEP. We talked about Blue Acres, which the town has talked about, raising houses. Mr. McDonald, can you just give us an update on that piece of the flood mitigation work that we're doing?
Sure. Blue Acres, we had originally come out with a presentation by the director or the chief of acquisition, Fawn McGee, which I think was a well-attended public information session. At this point, we've asked Blue Acres to just copy the township on any applications that are received. It's a voluntary program through DEP, and they handle the program. At this point, and I'm confirming it with Ms. McGee, but at this point, we've received 2 applications to that program.
Right, but can you also talk about your conversations with Chris Testa?
What's that?
With Chris Testa, can you talk
Yes.
about the house raising?
And if again, I'm confirming with her. So if that's not true, I'm sure I'll find out. But I'm just letting you know when I know.
There might be a delay in some
there could
what
be.
they've
Absolutely.
received and
Absolutely.
what they've communicated to us. But that is what we know for sure in this moment.
Correct. And happy to find out that there's more or more interest. But yeah, we also had a conversation with just today with the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management, who handles the home elevation program. And unfortunately, in their description of Millburn and what they know about our severe loss properties or repetitive loss properties, and it needs to be understood that program runs through federal flood insurance, and so based on the number of properties that we have in the township with federal flood insurance and the number of homes that are within a floodway, essentially the gist of the conversation was that home elevation will not be a viable program here in Millburn at this time. And it's one of those things that we will need to explain a little bit further, I think, have a little bit more information. But I wanted to make sure that we had this conversation so that that's one of those items that has sort of been on the list that we can say maybe needs a little bit further explanation, but right now isn't something that we should maybe spend a whole lot of time and energy on exploring, because of if they're telling us at NJOEM that it's not necessarily a viable program, there may be other avenues to take and other things to discuss.
Now, is that also in terms of our conversations with FEMA? Is that and their non-structural solutions? And house raising being one of those. That's another avenue that can be explored.
You mean in terms of the Army Corps through the Mayor's Railroad? Yeah. Correct. That's something else that can be explored. But this is through the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management.
Okay. So just wanted to give that update. But back to on Friday, met with the mayors, and we are moving ahead, and all this comes back to the council, needs to be approved by all of our councils. So the idea is to form, and Alex, I'm going to have you just also pop in different times, but right now there's no mechanism. If we were to get the consensus plan and the bypass, let's say we all agree to it and we want to get it built, there's no mechanism for anyone to operate that. So that means that these towns would have to come together and form some type of utility.
Potentially a utility or a flood commission.
Or a flood commission, right.
That is responsible for making decisions on the operation of that.
Right, and that is one of the suggestions, potential suggestions that the commissioner had given to us when we met with them.
Correct.
So that conversation is in the works, along with the Rahway Rivers Council has a budget of or has a revenue of $70,000 from all of these different municipalities. And then the idea, and they had been using the majority of the money to fund Winning Strategies, which is a lobbying firm to work down in Washington to get FEMA to come and to get money appropriated, which they did, but then to get FEMA to come and do the projects, flood mitigation projects. So we are now switched this conversation so that this money would be better used to fund John Rushke, the engineer from Mott McDonald, who came up with the consensus plan to further investigate this bypass and the real engineering. Because right now it was such a high level, and then we were going to give this consensus plan to the Army Corps of Engineer to further study it. And they come back and said, we're not going to study it because it's done by human forecasting. So in order to move forward with the bypass, we need more engineering work done. So at some point, it will come to this committee to ask you to approve that that work gets done. But these are the conversations that I'm having with the mayors, with Mayor Prunty from Cranford. We're on the phone regularly, and John Rushke. We have our next meeting scheduled for next Friday. No, the Friday after the November 9th meeting, I believe it is. I think we were going to wait till everyone had a chance to have their committee meetings back, and then we were going to come together and say how the rest of the committee felt. November 5th, Mayor. Right, thank you. So our committee, we need to talk about this more, and we'll talk about it tonight under new business. The next thing is I scheduled a meeting with the engineer from Essex County and John Rushke and our business administrator to talk about the Essex Street Bridge and the Millburn Avenue Bridge and what they could possibly do to improve those bridges so that we don't have flooding there. So those that meeting will take place, and then I will report back on it. And then I need to bring up on 10/6, so it was the Wednesday after the last township committee meeting, Mr. McDonald and Committeewoman Eglow and I went down to some residents on Ridgewood Avenue. And we met with them and we looked at the drainage in their backyard. And we had told them that a letter would be going out on the following Monday on 10/11, that one between Greenwood and to identify, I'm just going to read that, one between Greenwood and Ridgewood drainage projects and one between Ridgewood and Locust. And this process would require an easement from any private property owner that receives drainage constructed and maintained by the township. And the first step to this was for a letter to go out on 10/11 and with a survey to the property owners in these areas to see if there's a willingness to have the township construct a drainage project in their backyards. This letter didn't go out, and I'm sorry to report that it didn't go out. It didn't go out because 3 of my committee members halted the letter from going out. So Deputy Mayor Wasserman, Committeewoman Miggins, and Committeeman Sanjeev Vinayak told Mr. McDonald not to send the letter out. So I was there, I was with the residents and Committeewoman Eglow, and I'm so sorry that this, I don't know why the letter didn't go out. I'm not sure why they halted it, or why they didn't want to get this process started, But I am sorry. And I'm sorry because I was standing there with you. And I'm sorry because I saw, we made a promise to you that this letter was going to go out and it didn't go out. So hopefully there will be more discussion about why it didn't go out, though I cannot imagine any reason for that. And I think that is the end of my reports for tonight. Let me just make sure I got everything. Oh, no, I want to talk about the general election and just give some dates. So October 23rd to October 31st is in-person early voting period. October 26th is the deadline to apply for vote by mail ballot by mail for the general election. November 1st at 3 p.m. is the deadline to apply for vote by mail ballot in person at the Essex County Clerk's office. And November 2nd is election day. Polls are open from 6 to 8 p.m. And please remember that the library is still the polling location for people that are designated to vote at the library. So even though the library is closed right now and is operating at the former Annie Says property, on election day, go to the library if that is where you are designated to vote. Let me just make sure that I have finished all of my reports tonight. And again, to Joanna and Nicole, thank you so much. I am just in awe and inspired by all the work that you do for our community. So thank you. And that is all that I have for my reports. Mr. McDonald, I have one last question for you. The Upton, can you let us know how much we will be bringing in revenue from the Upton?
I can report that at the next committee meeting.
Okay, I think it's good information for us.
Sure. I mean, I do know that it's going to be assessed at $83 million. So, but people want to do the math, they can do the math, but I'll certainly bring the number at the next meeting.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. So we will move on to the consent agenda resolutions. The Township Committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions.
Oh, the two-way.
Are there any? Oh my goodness, presentation. So much going on. Michelle, thank you. Yes, I'm gonna let Gaston start, and then we're gonna bring in Dan, and then we're gonna let you go. So on one other thing, on Sunday at the Tour de Millburn, we presented this larger concept. It was out there, so kind of this is the unveiling of it, and it also did get sent out it was on our township website and sent out through social media.
Yes, thank you, Township Committee, for letting me speak tonight. My name is Gaston Halpert, and I have been a resident of Millburn for over 10 years now. I'm a co-chair of the Millburn Parent-Teacher Organization Conference Safety Committee, and I'm the liaison for the Safety Committee and between the Safety Committee and the Township Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board. And I guess what we're speaking on tonight is the possibility of having a study done for two-way traffic in downtown Millburn. And I'm here tonight to advocate for proceeding with the study to convert Millburn to a two-way traffic system. In my research, I've learned that converting to a one-way street to a two-way traffic system is an increasingly popular way to manage traffic patterns, improve access, change the character of the downtown area from being a point-to-point pass-through to a destination, which I think we all would like to see happen to Millburn. Converting a one-way street to a two-way street can not only help reduce motor vehicle speeds, reduce vehicle miles traveled, gasoline consumption, and travel time, but also improve conditions and access for pedestrians and bicyclists. There are several disadvantages to our current one-way street configuration. One-way streets tend to encourage higher motor vehicle speeds than two-way streets, and higher vehicle speeds do not bode well for pedestrians. Two-way streets, on the other hand, reduce vehicle speeds due to increased turning movements, and we should now have turning movements in both directions at all of our intersections in town. And due to the perception of oncoming vehicles, when you have a one-way street, you're looking down the one-way street, you're going from point to point, you're not paying attention to the pedestrians and bicyclists around you. But when you have oncoming traffic, you're alert, you're looking around, you're seeing what's going on and stopping at the intersections. So, let's see. Yep. And when turning from a one-way street, left-turning motorists may be less cautious and less inclined to see crossing pedestrians due to poor sight lines. I did experience this personally several years back. I was walking at the intersection of Essex and Main Street, pushing my daughter in a stroller, and sure enough, a motorist was turning left, was going fairly quickly, and came to a screeching halt about 2 feet in front of us. And I will never forget that, and I hope whatever solution we do come up with, this two-way traffic solution, will help eliminate that type of situation in the future. Next, since most of our roads in town are two-way roads, intersections involving one-way streets can be more confusing for roadway users, like non-local residents who come to visit our shops, our restaurants, and the Paper-Mill Playhouse, and especially our young pedestrians. So when we're in our neighborhoods, everything is two-way traffic. We have stop signs, but then when we come to town, we have speeding traffic going one way and having odd turns, trying to get around town, trying to maneuver all the driveways. And in addition, Millburn's one-way streets are multi-lane, which creates a multiple threat conditions for pedestrians crossing the road. It's not just a single lane where people are speeding down, but now the pedestrians have to go across 1, 2, or even 3 when you have a turning lane. So having the two-way system where you have 1 or 2 lanes going 2 ways, you eliminate this safety issue. And the study, I think, should look at several aspects to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety, including dedicated bike lanes, which you can see there in the green, to protect bicyclists, dedicated pedestrian crossing intervals, and more signalized intersections to allow for protected pedestrian crossing. And finally, wider sidewalks and a proposed tree line on the major streets, creating a more comfortable feeling downtown area where our residents and visitors feel safe, want to stay longer, and want to come visit again. So I do hope that we are able to proceed with the second part of the study. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we bring Mayor Barron?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Township Committee, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you, but been under the weather a little bit and erring on the side of caution. So I hope to see you all soon. I, first of all, support the advancement of this study to the next phase of conceptual design and estimation of capital costs. Since we last met, we progressed the study of the two-way traffic in the downtown with Colliers, who's doing a fine job. And this project presents several opportunities and satisfies several goals of your master plan. It is a project that can be defined many different ways. And on the surface, it is a traffic mitigation opportunity. And it's an opportunity to reduce the significant amount of cut-through traffic that diverts from Route 24 through the town, which we've experienced for many, many, many years with the undersized physical situation at 24 and 78. However, it's much more than that. It's also an opportunity to create an integrated multimodal system with improved pedestrian circulation and capacity for bikes, as Gaston just discussed. It furthers the goal of a safe and walkable downtown, and it builds upon the momentum associated with several other physical and policy improvements that the township has recently implemented. It can address many of our parking issues and double parking conditions we see all too frequently. And it can create value. This is important. It can create value, which is so important because the increased value in the downtown benefits the residential taxpayer. It's very important as some of the burden is transferred to the retail uses as the value of the retail increases. So there's a significant economic benefit as well. So this project plays many different roles and can be defined many different ways. And we're all being very careful and thorough in our review and deliberations. And we are focused on the need to prevent unnecessary diversions into residential neighborhoods. And I know that was brought up at the last meeting, and we have been very laser focused on that issue. This is something, again, I addressed at the previous discussion. Also, the next phase of work would add additional meat to the bone, which will allow Colliers to provide conceptual level cost estimates for the committee's review. However, I would suggest and caution members of the committee to refrain from throwing out cost numbers at this time. It's premature and work needs to be done. Guessing at cost is problematic and sets unnecessary precedents that we also have to work back from. So again, I would caution throwing out any cost numbers. Allow the engineers to do the work that needs to be done for your review. Mayor and committee, thank you for the opportunity to play a role in this project and speak tonight. Thank you. I hope to see you all soon.
Feel better.
Thank you. Yeah, feel better. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
Not feeling well. Committeeman Vignac, do you have anything to add as you sit on the subcommittee with us?
I'm in support of this project as well. It's good. It will bring all the economic value to our town. And Mayor Bear has said it in a very fine way. So all the support to this project from my end as well. Thank you.
Okay. And then we will have the presentation done by Ms. Brion.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. It's so nice to finally meet some faces in person. We have been on Zoom quite a bit discussing this project, so it's nice to be here in person. So thank you. When I was first approached with this project, we did talk about the many needs, the visions for a downtown Millburn. As Gaston mentioned and Mr. Bear, you know, a lot of those elements that we wanted to incorporate were enhanced pedestrian accommodations, bicycle lanes, more of a downtown feel, some landscape, some treescape, all of those elements that really make a downtown area more vibrant, more exciting. So with all of that, my task, I would guess maybe the more boring task, was to actually see how all of those visions, all of those ideas would work from a traffic perspective. So what I am going to focus on is mainly how this will affect the traffic in the downtown area and whether or not this is actually a feasible idea. So what we did is we created our study area, which is Millburn Avenue between Douglas and Essex or Parkview, and then Essex Street between Douglas and Millburn as well. So really that rectangular quadrant of your downtown area where you have Millburn Avenue traveling one-way eastbound and Essex Street traveling one-way westbound. Again, this graphic shows those study intersections. So it's basically all of those main intersections in the quadrant that I just mentioned. So what we actually did here was we established our baseline condition. We took traffic counts at these intersections, AM and PM traffic counts, really your rush hour traffic, just to again establish that baseline condition. Is it okay if I pull my mask? Thank you. Before I choke myself here. Again, just to establish those baseline conditions. So then coming up with the proposed geometry. And again, discussing this with the committee, discussing this with the residents, we had decided that what would be more advantageous to this downtown feel was to decide if whether or not a two-way traffic pattern along Millburn Avenue and Essex Street was actually feasible. What we came up with was one travel lane in each direction with a center two-way left turn lane to accommodate your left turns into and out of those side streets. And then dedicated bike lanes along Essex Street, Lackawanna, Main Street, and Brookside. And actually you could see in this graphic here that those bike lanes are outlined in the green. And actually, again, just to take this back a little bit too, what you're seeing here for this two-way traffic flow is actually an analysis program that we use. So what we did is we take those volumes, we create a model, and then that is what tells us whether or not this will work from a traffic perspective. So we have an existing model of Millburn, which is exactly how Millburn is today. And then this proposed model of what it could look like. And that is the comparison tool that we use to tell whether or not the existing versus the proposed, what it looks like between the two scenarios. So that's what you see here. That's why it's kind of, it doesn't show your crosswalks or bike lanes. It's not really a drawing tool or a conceptual tool. It's more of just a traffic geometry lane roadway tool. Again, here you have those project extents. So you have the intersection of Millburn Avenue with Douglas Street, and then the intersection of Millburn Avenue with Essex/Parkview. And this is, again, just kind of what we're envisioning from a traffic perspective, that you have some sort of channelized right turn configuration at these intersections just to manage the traffic. We did look at the number of vehicles turning into and out of these intersections, and we did find that a traffic signal wouldn't be warranted from a volume perspective, and that they will operate at acceptable levels of service. And again, levels of service are what we use to grade an intersection. It's the same as your grade school grading. A is the best, F is the worst. And we generally see C's and D's in a downtown area. And that's pretty much what we're seeing at all of these intersections. And then the next part of the presentation just looks a little bit deeper at some of your main intersections in town. So here you have the intersection of Main Street with Millburn Avenue. As you could see, we're proposing left turn lanes, 2 travel lanes at the intersection, pedestrian improvements, countdown timers, all of those pedestrian elements that Gaston spoke about. And again, what we're seeing in that comparison between the existing versus this proposed intersection geometry is that we're operating at similar levels of service to the existing, which I think is important to note, because while it's not necessarily, better, it definitely won't be, it'll be about the same. However, in this case, you're accommodating more of those elements that you wanted to see, which is, the bikes and the pedestrians and that more of a downtown feel. Similarly, this is Main Street and Essex Street. You'll see that there's 2 lanes at each of the approaches at the intersection. And in this intersection will continue to operate similarly to how it does today as far as delay. Again, that's based on delay. This is Lackawanna and Millburn. And you can just, again, see the proposed geometry in here. We don't have to go through each one unless you guys want to. But again, the main message here is that we're seeing acceptable levels of service at all of these main intersections in your downtown area. Same thing for Lackawanna and Essex. You have a dedicated left turn lane and then a shared through/right turn lane at each of the intersection approaches. And again, it's we're seeing acceptable levels of service here. I think this is important. This is, again, some of the things that Mr. Baer and Gaston touched upon, which is your local and regional benefits. So as I've previously mentioned, this will enhance the downtown feel. We're adding sidewalk, we're adding landscaping. This will reduce the vehicular speed in the downtown area. Basically what's happening now is is when you have 3 travel lanes in each direction, it has that freeway, highway kind of feel to it. So it doesn't encourage vehicles to slow down once they enter the downtown area. It kind of feels like a thoroughfare of traffic. So, you know, creating one travel lane in each direction with all of these other circulation elements occurring at the same time is going to automatically tell drivers that, you know, they need to slow down and that they are in a downtown area. We're going to improve pedestrian safety, discourage cut through to and from Route 24, simplify navigation for vehicles by eliminating basically the one-way pattern all around the town. We're going to reduce the vehicle miles traveled, which therefore improves emissions and air quality. Access to businesses, which I know was a very strong reason for wanting to do this, is that, you know, sometimes it's maybe not convenient to go on this one-way circulation around town. And this may improve the access to all of those businesses by having this two-way flow, improve access to parking facilities. As the businesses grow, it will support economic activity. It will provide additional routes, and it'll expand regional mobility by providing, you know, 2 different routes, I guess, in and out of the town. And then it will maintain capacity for the local trips as far as how the downtown will operate from a traffic point of view, except we're adding all of these other benefits to it. So that really concludes it. As I mentioned before, my job was really to look at it from a traffic analysis perspective while taking into consideration, you know, all of the different elements that were expressed upon me. I feel as a traffic engineer that with all of the benefits that this project would do for the town, that there really aren't many negatives as far from a traffic point of view. You know, we're finding similar operating conditions, no detriment to the levels of service or delay in the downtown area, all at the same time as well. We're really able to give the town a lot of the wants and needs that they asked for. So that concludes my presentation. I'm open to any questions. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the work you've done. Does anybody on the committee have any questions?
Actually, I have a question.
Sure.
So in addition to making the township more competitive with our neighbors, right? Because a lot of other towns.
Can you take your mask off? People tell me they can't hear you. Thank you.
So in addition to making us more competitive with our surrounding towns that have this type of circulation, it also do you think it will also enhance people's feeling to stay local? In other words, they don't have to wait an hour or half an hour to try to get around town. Do you think it would also give them a feel like the efficiency would allow them to get around easier, so maybe they would stay more local?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the more of a downtown feel, the vibrancy, the idea that this is somewhere that they want to spend their time, I think all of those things combined will make people want to stay more local. Because
I've always heard in the past when there's been a backup, boy, I can't wait here anymore. I can't wait. I want to, you know.
Yeah, and I think by reducing the cut through traffic, or the intent to reduce the cut through traffic to and from Route 24, will hopefully reduce a lot of that congestion that you guys are currently experiencing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your presentation. So with this plan, currently we do not allow from Millburn Avenue a left onto Main. In fact, we shut down Main Street in the summertime, or we have in the past few years. So that would allow now for a left?
Yes, at the intersection of Millburn and Main, there would be dedicated left turn lanes along each of the approaches.
And also coming in from Essex Street.
Correct, yes.
But one of the reasons they stopped the left is because people were getting hit. Is that not so? Alex, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, however, I think that part of this is the ability to continue the pedestrian lead intervals, as well as Gaston had mentioned, people's attention to pedestrians on a left-hand turn when you're crossing traffic is different than if you don't have to cross traffic.
Okay. And help me to understand how it discourages cut-through traffic from Route 24.
Sure. So right now, as I mentioned, you have, you know, these 3-lane roadways that, again, you have this free flow kind of thoroughfare feel. So when you neck it down to one travel lane in each direction with bike lanes and pedestrians, it doesn't feel as much of like a freeway feel to it. And I think what people trying to cut through the town may experience is just, you know, it's not maybe worth their time as much to go through the town at this point, because there's just not the same capacity to kind of.
I don't think somebody would get off 24 to go through Millburn to get back onto 24.
No, to go from 24 to 78.
Yeah.
Is the cut through pattern that we know.
Not, help me to understand.
We have, so basically what I'm told is that Millburn Avenue is used for a lot of cut through traffic from Route 24 to and from, and you use Essex to get back, you know, in the PM it goes one way and in the AM it goes another way. I'm sorry, if you want to explain it to me, maybe. No, so I don't, I
just don't know. Have we ever tracked that? Have we ever seen how that happens, I guess is my point. So somebody gets off of 24 on Hobart Avenue and comes down in through town. I'm a little confused how it changes the traffic pattern from 24, that's all.
It's not going to change the traffic pattern. It's just that this is going to become more of a downtown area and it's not going to have the same feel when you drive through it.
Which that I can appreciate. I just don't know where I see the Route 24 traffic pattern changing, that's all.
If I may, I think what happens, people come down, let's say from the Short Hills Mall, they work in Morristown, if I may. And as you start coming down towards Millburn, the traffic backs up, people heading for the Parkway. And so people say, oh, there's that last exit in Millburn. I'm going to get off Millburn and cut across Millburn Avenue to Vauxhall.
Yes.
And that's what I have heard. And there once was, I believe, a study that did track license plates. I don't know, we could probably find that study. And it showed how people, the cars were just using it, not stopping in Millburn. They weren't residents. There's a way to do that.
Yes. Yeah, it's with license plates.
That could be something that if we approve this, we could add into the investigation.
Sure. Or maybe we could, before we approve it, we could do it as an investigation.
Yes.
So are you done?
I'm finished.
Okay. So I would just like to say, you know, hindsight is 2020. If perhaps the former mayor, deputy mayor had done this and said it was the $6 million on complete streets, everything would have been different. I wouldn't be here. Mayor Prupis wouldn't be here. That is what activated the community. And I think that $6 million, and I know like former Mayor Bear said not to put a price on it, but perhaps if things had been looked at in a more holistic approach, this could have been done 5 years ago, and maybe the town would be seeing the benefits now. So I would definitely support a further investigation. When this was first presented to us, I couldn't really envision it. Mm-hmm. And each time it's explained, you get more knowledge about it. So I think it's an important thing to look at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think the next step, because there seems to be some consensus in terms of looking further into this, the next step would then be doing a study of, I'm gonna let you finish. And
yeah, sure. So what we've done to date is that we have collected the traffic volumes in the downtown area. We've modeled them in our software. Again, we've done the existing conditions and the proposed scenario. And what that has told us is that, yes, this would work from a traffic perspective. And that, you know, you're not gonna have these crazy delays because you switch to a two-way traffic flow system. So the next part of this would be to conceptually lay it out to actually see how everything could be accommodated within the downtown area and as a concept, like design and actual physical lines on paper.
And a cost estimate.
Yes, and a cost estimate of how much that would entail.
Okay, if there's consensus from the committee, I think that we can direct Michelle to do this work and then bring that back to the township to have a public information session, maybe with breakout rooms to get more of a wide public input. How does everyone feel about that?
I'm good with it, but I do want to make sure that when you come back, that we have some idea of the cost of the estimated cost. And maybe it's more of a Chinese menu where you can do it a couple different ways, and it would cost X if you do it like this, or in other words, I think it's important for the township to have a kind of a good idea of what would it cost. Because for budgeting, if this goes into the future, maybe it's. Do you have any idea how far into the future this could be? If everything goes well, I mean, is it 5 years? Is it 10 years?
Probably about 5 years, yeah.
So what I'm thinking is that if you came back to us with kind of a cost analysis and it was X amount of money, and we wanted to do it, maybe we would start, budgeting for it, putting away some money for that, so we wouldn't be hit on a 1 year basis.
Understood. Thank you.
Great. All right, great. Thank you. So we'll have another, we'll meet again and we'll keep the conversation going. All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank
you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so everyone knows that we will have plenty of time for more public input on that when we have more information to talk about. The Township Committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
So consent agenda 21-286. We have not had finance subcommittee meeting in a while because, as you all know, CFO Jason Gabloff has resigned and new CFO has just taken over. So we have a meeting scheduled for next week. Since this is the budget item that is being extended by $100,000 more, I like to put it out on the table if committee has consensus there to have us first review this in our finance subcommittee meeting, and then bring it back to review what our possible protocol on this is, or what our thought process should be on this.
Mr. McDonald, can you explain to us 21-286 and just the public, let everyone know what's going on?
Yeah, this is similar to other contract amendments that we've had thus far this year. Beth McManus and Colliers. At this point, the law firm's contract is running up against the not to exceed number that was established at the beginning of the year. And the not to exceed number is a estimate by the township of what the cost of that particular professional service might be. And so at this point.
And can you just remind everyone what our not to exceed number was?
Yes, for the township attorney, Mayor Z. Falcon, was $450,000. And so we are currently at $379,000 of that contract. And so we're looking to amend that contract to add those additional funds.
Does anyone wish to respond to Committeeman Vinyayak?
Yeah, I also was a little concerned just because I didn't know what the extra 100,000 was. And I just want to say that I think Mr. Falcon is doing. I think Mr. Falcon is doing an exceptional job in terms of his work, but I did call Mr. Falcon to ask him about this. Let me take off my mask. And I would tend just in terms of caution and the fact that we have a finance subcommittee. I don't think it would matter. I don't think it would make much of a difference if the finance committee takes a look at the billing and takes a look at what the incoming charges are, because the 100,000 that we'd be approving would be, would go towards, his extra billing towards the end of the year. So I think it would be prudent to have the finance committee take another look at that, maybe speak to Mr. Falcon to make sure that we have the right amount. Maybe it's not, maybe it wouldn't be 100,000, maybe it'd be less than that. And so I actually think it would be prudent. I don't think from what I could ascertain, I don't think it would be a problem I don't think that Mr. Falcon would have an issue waiting a couple weeks. So I would favor that.
May I ask a question? Sure. Well, Collier's and Beth McManus's contract had to be extended. We've done this in the past. Has it, number one, gone through the finance committee for this kind of discussion? Or have we just approved that because we know we need Mr. Falcon to finish out our year? There's only 6 weeks left to the year. And if we don't use the entire $100,000, you won't get the entire $100,000. But we do have these couple of lawsuits that we're working on, and we need Mr. Falcon and his team to be available and to be paid. So I want to know with those two questions.
So let me
I'm asking
take that.
Mr. McDonald.
I defer to the member who would like to speak to it on it, but I do have an answer as well.
Okay, please.
So the answer is and again, this does not determine what action you take on this particular item, but the answer to the question about McManus and Collier's is no. But I will, however, caveat that they were lesser amounts. And
25,000.
Correct. And again, this is a committee decision whether you would like to table this and move, have it done in a different way. I'm only looking at it from an impact to the township's operation. And if you decide to wait till November 9th, township committee meeting to extend that contract, we will not, because we're a month behind in billing, we will not. But if you do not do anything at the November 9th meeting, you will not have you will not have the capacity for legal services. Ms. Eglo is correct. The $100,000, if it is again another estimate as to what would get us to the end of the year, if it's not spent, it's not spent. It's essentially saying, well, okay, so you could do $25,000 and then you'd have to come back the next meeting and get another, so it's just a matter of extending that to an amount that you think would get you to the end of the year, whether you use it all or not. That's it.
And wait, I'm not done, Mr. Wasserman. When the HPC asked for $75,000 for their own consultant to do work on 3 properties in town, did that go through the finance committee or did we just approve that as a committee? Mr. Vinayak, did you approve that $75,000 for the HPC? That was a lot of money. That's closer to the $100,000.
I thought you were asking a question from Mr. McDonald, and I'm not saying.
Asking you. Now I'm asking you.
Okay, so may I?
Please.
All right. So when I say it's going to be reviewed in sub-finance committee, that doesn't mean we approve it. It still comes to the township committee and gets approved here. So nothing gets approved by just subcommittee. It is just reviewed there and then brought it here. Mr. McDonald, you may want to add it in there. If that is true or not true, please feel free.
There's no reason to delay this. We have to pay our law firm. We have a lot of legal issues.
I assume your vote is no. And I assume, again, Mr. Wasserman vote is yes. And I'm, again, asking the consensus. You're absolutely fine to vote yes or no.
Again, consensus means everyone's in agreement.
Absolutely, yes. No, 3 out of 5 needs to be yes.
Megan, what would you like to do?
Wow. I just want to make a correction about the HPC. Those were 3 different items that they worked on. It wasn't one $75,000 consulting fee for one project. It was 3 different projects. You seem to forget that, Ms. Egel.
No, I don't, Maggie. It's a total. No. It's a total.
For 3 different things, for 3 different items that they were working on.
But it didn't go through the subcommittee of finance, and I think that's the point she's making.
But as it pertains to this $100,000, it appears the gentleman on the finance committee would like to look at the bills. I can appreciate that Mr. McDonald feels that it's going to be tight in order to pay Mr. Falcon, but the Falcon and Marizzetti have worked for the Township of Millburn for many years, and I think that it would be perfectly fine if we wait. So I'm in concurrence with.
All right, it looks like there's a consensus here. Yes. So we're going to pull the resolution. May I have a motion to? I have to pull that one out. Okay. May I have a motion to approve resolution 28-283 through resolution 21-289?
No, I have one
pulling
question.
out.
I do have one.
We're moving on. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I just do have a question, just because I know I was contacted, and I don't know if everyone else was contacted in reference to the pilot program to allow dogs in certain areas of Taylor Park. I guess my question is, a gentleman had emailed us asking, could we not do the pilot program rather than do it now when people are not out with their dogs as much? Could we then look at a pilot program rather later, more spring into summer, and see what that pilot program looked like and what the dog, because people aren't going to be out in the cold if we start doing it now, or as much people wanting to walk their dogs in Taylor Park. So do we think about that?
It's a 9-month pilot program.
I thought it was a 6 month.
No, it's 9 months.
It's 9 month total.
So when does it start?
Upon
November 1st.
Yep.
9 months.
Okay, then I'm fine
Well,
with it. Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was 6 months.
Yeah, I think we extended it to make sure that it caught the warmer months.
Okay,
as
I think
well.
because we received that email, we wanted to make sure that our residents heard.
But originally it was 6 months, am I correct?
And
Yeah,
Alex,
yeah.
did we clarify that there will be those baggies, that we'll make sure that that's there? Okay.
Signage and stations. There will be one on the Main Street side and one on the Whittingham side.
And we'll have proper enforcement to make sure everybody follows the rules as good as we can.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Miggins, for getting it clarified. There's 9 months. I was under the assumption that it is 6 months also. Thank you.
And lastly, just to make note that if somebody doesn't pick up their dog after their dog, what is the fine for that?
It is up to $2,000.
$2,000 fine.
And
if you
that's
don't,
throughout the township.
throughout the township, if you don't, but just for everybody to know,
Yeah.
if you don't pick up after your dog, it's a $2,000 fine.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve resolution 28-282 through resolution 28-289, tabling 21-286, which are listed on the consent agenda?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins,
Yes.
Ms. Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Prupus.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 21-275 to provide for the appointments of individuals to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee and to establish the duties of the committee. And this is tabled from October 5th. I know that there are a number of residents in the here tonight who want to speak to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, so I'm going to open it up to public comment.
For those people.
For those people that want to speak specifically to these resolutions before we vote on them.
Wait, we've never done that
You would need to make just make a motion. Just make a motion to open.
A motion to open up to public comment. I'd like to make a motion to public comment to open it up to the residents who are here tonight to speak to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee before we vote on it.
Mayor, I have a statement that I'd like to read that may clarify things, for people that want to speak on this. And I would only ask to be able to make my statement. I'd actually love to hear what people have to say, but I think my statement may address some of some of their concerns.
I want to second the mayor's motion to let the people who have come out tonight to speak before we move forward.
I'm not going to move forward all the way. I'm asking.
I'm just seconding that's the Robert's rules. I'm seconding the mayor's motion. And she can ask for a vote.
Can you clarify this?
Yeah, so if you have a motion and a second, then it's discussion and it's a vote.
All right, so
you don't. We could discuss first.
No, when I say discuss, it's the motion. So you have a motion to open a public session. You have a second. You should now take a vote to open it to the public.
Okay.
I'd like to open up the public comment. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Okay.
Residents have to say in response to you guys tabling the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee at the last.
I guess that's the motion.
You just need to, can we have a roll call vote on the motion?
That's roll call. Can I have a roll call vote, please? Oh, then we discuss. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Miggins?
No.
Ms. Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
No.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
No.
Everyone,
Mayor,
please stay calm. Yes, it's yes.
No,
Everyone,
Mr. Mann, please stay.
Calm.
Mr. Mann, please stay.
Everyone, please stay in the room. Please stay calm.
No.
So mine is yes. I wish to open it up to the public. So I'm actually gonna, would anyone like, Committeewoman Eglo, would you like to make a comment then on this resolution?
Yes, I know these residents came out specifically to speak about this. They have young children at home. They've already been here an hour and a half. We have done this in the past. We've opened up public comment to just have our residents speak to a specific issue. This is an issue of such utmost importance. They are here. They have come to be heard before we go on. And I can see that you're all nodding your heads, and to not allow you to speak and let you get home to your children.
We're actually right now, we're talking about that resolution that was tabled, provide the appointments for the individual to the flood mitigation. So do you have any comments on the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee?
Yes, it has to go forward as it was originally envisioned, that you were on it as the mayor with all this year's knowledge that you spoke about earlier. I, who did sit on the mayor's committee for 2 years and who lives in the neighborhood, the only one who represents this actual population with history, with knowledge and understanding. So
I'd like to make a comment. Yeah. Are you done?
I'm done.
So on November, what was our September? What was the second meeting in September?
It was the 15th.
The 15th.
September 21st.
Thank you. September 21st. We passed the resolution where Committeewoman Eglo and myself, it was a full consensus resolution of 5 people, passed that Committeewoman Eglo and I would sit on the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. So let me tell you how the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, the conversation even started. After Ida happened, and I went to Mr. McDonald and I said, these are the things we need to start doing. We need a Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. And we started talking about who would make sense to sit on that. The different people in the different parts of town, in the different areas of the town, to have representation from the downtown, to have representation from the people that were affected by it. And we started this conversation, and the full committee knew that we were having this conversation. And he said, who else should sit on it with you? I said, of course, Committeewoman Eglo should sit on this with her history and her knowledge and her experience and her house being down there in this neighborhood. So we started moving ahead, forming that subcommittee, and we put out a call to the community. We put out a volunteer interest form, and we started moving ahead and populating that committee as we have populated all the committees this year, which has basically been the 2 people on the subcommittee have gone ahead working to populate the committee. We work in good faith here. We've generally, most of us throughout the year have figured out a way to work together to do, even though we have personal differences and different personalities, we've figured out a way to work together to put what's in the best interest of this town first and foremost. So Committeewoman Eglo and I did that. We moved along and we populated the Flood Mitigation Committee. There was an information session. That information session to the town happened because I went to Mr. McDonald and said, we need to have an information session. We need to talk about what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and what we're gonna do to make sure it never happens again. I didn't hear a peep from anybody on the committee. Don't do this, don't do that. They didn't say a word. I mean, since Ida happened, I just kept doing what was the best next thing for our residents. We contacted Blue Acres. We had them do an information session. I've been in contact with many of the residents. So at that information session, we put out a last and final call. We want to get the flood mitigation populated. We need to start talking about this as soon as possible. We can't let any more time go. We said that the volunteer interest forms were due on Thursday. that happened. On Friday, I said, can I get a list of all the people that put in to why they wanted to serve? On Monday, we had a meeting. And I don't know what my other committee members, they knew that they had approved a flood mitigation advisory committee with Committeewoman Eglo and I chairing it. They knew that we were going ahead. Not once did I hear a word from any of them. Who are you putting on this? Who raised their hand? Who wants to serve? Nothing. So Committeewoman Eglo and Mr. McDonald sat in a room, and I sat in a room, as we have done all year. This is nothing new. This is how the bid got formed last year. Mr. Wasserman, former Mayor Lieberberg, they went ahead and populated the committee. They came to me. They said, these are the people we think should be on it. Trusted them in good faith. They had done their due diligence. They knew what they were doing. I let them go with it. So, and it's been a great committee. Anyway, so we sat in that room and we came up with a list. That was on Monday. And then and it got out through the thing that two names were on the flood mitigation list: Carrie Heller and Nicholas Vopicelli. Nicholas Vopicelli ran for township committee last year. He raised his hand. He raised his hand as a Republican candidate. He wanted to serve his township committee, or he wanted to serve his township. He put his hand up and he lost, right? He's not sitting up here. He did not win. But when we put out the call to the people that wanted to serve this township in the flood mitigation advisory committee, he's an engineer, he's knowledgeable, he's skillful, and he wanted to serve. And in conversations with my committee members, they didn't want him there. They didn't want him there. They didn't want him there because he's not our friend. That's what I heard. Can't work with him. He's not our friend. No one had to sit in the room with Nicholas Vopicelli except Committeewoman Eglo and myself and the rest of the subcommittee, which, by the way, needed to be open. We wanted to have public comment. We wanted to run a meeting just like this, so anybody who wanted to participate could. But the three other members, they had a problem with it. Specifically these names. No, you may not interrupt me right now. You'll have your turn to read your prepared statement. The other person who they didn't want on the flood mitigation advisory committee was Mr. Carrie Heller, who owns 2 properties in the downtown, who was out helping people from the time that Ida happened to days after, right? When other committee members had left town and weren't here and weren't doing anything, he was there pumping out people's basements. So in terms of the 3 other members, Mr. Wasserman, Ms. Miggins, Mr. Vinyayak, they didn't want this committee because they didn't have a problem with anybody else named. They didn't make suggestions. Oh, actually, Ms. Miggins made a suggestion and we put her suggestion on the committee. So this is what the issue was about the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. This is why it got tabled, because of Nicholas Vopicelli and Carrie Heller. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that letter didn't go out to you. I'm so sorry the process hasn't already been made. This is horrific. So I think I'm done in terms of talking about it and telling about it. And
may I speak, Mayor?
I'm going to take a moment. Hold on. I'm going to have one more moment before you speak and tell your prepared statement.
No problem. You have the floor.
I've been working so hard since that night to figure out what we can do, how we can help the residents, what we can do for you. And while I will not be on the committee because they're going to take Committeewoman Eglo and I off, I will continue to work for you. I will continue to make sure everything in my ability to do so, and that I'm speaking to Carrie Heller and I'm speaking to Nicholas Vopicelli to make sure that their input is in this committee. And it should be a public, open committee. People should be able to make public comment. It should be televised. This is too big of an issue for us as a community for it to be politicized. Would you like to read your prepared statement?
I'd like to speak. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And I do want to say to the neighbors that are here, and I mean, it must look kind of crazy. Why did three committee people, what's going on here? So I want to speak to this, and I'll explain, my concern. And I think, and
you guys, wait, order. You guys, please. We need to. This isn't a back and forth right now.
Well,
Committeeman Wasserman is going to explain to you.
Yeah, I will explain. And I do want to hear you. I want to hear everybody in this room. I just want to read a statement of what I'm concerned about. So, following the devastation caused by the remnants of Hurricane Ida in early September, Millburn Township took decisive steps to support our local businesses, residents impacted by the storm. Immediately after the storm, for example, the township undertook and completed a preliminary damage assessment. That preliminary assessment found that Hurricane Ida caused at least $39 million in damages to local businesses and another $9 million of damages to residential properties.
We're up to 100 now.
Do you want to interrupt, Mika?
Oh, no, I just wanted to give you the facts.
What facts?
That we're up to 100.
I'll try. Yeah, this were preliminary if you were listening. Anyway, completing this preliminary damage assessment, preliminary, an essential first step that helped Millburn and Essex County secure a formal disaster declaration from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA. Very importantly, this FEMA declaration has allowed our local businesses and residents to access desperately needed federal financial assistance. Let's not forget the hard work of those on our township staff, like on this committee also, like our mayor, who helped make this happen for Millburn's residents and businesses.
Am I in the committee?
Because without it, on the township committee.
Oh.
Because without it, where would we be? We've taken other important steps as well. As you know, the township committee has made grants available to local businesses impacted by the storm through Explore Millburn. And our township officials remain actively engaged with state and local leaders on a variety of topics related to the residual effects of Hurricane Ida. But now it's time for us as a governing body to turn our attention toward decisive and meaningful steps on flood mitigation. At our last meeting, we discussed this one approach to flood mitigation. At this meeting, I'm bringing forward another recommendation. I believe we need to initiate a formal process to produce a comprehensive, expert-led flood mitigation assessment. Once complete, this type of flood mitigation assessment created by well-qualified experts like those at Mott McDonald will inform and guide our actions on this issue for years to come. As part of this assessment, we need short-term, mid-term, and long-term approaches to address flood mitigation effectively. In my opinion, this approach to flood mitigation is logical and commonsensical. We need engineers with deep expertise and a track record of effectiveness in flood mitigation to lead this undertaking. As you may know, Mott McDonald has worked with our township for years, and they are, in my opinion, extremely well qualified for this role. At our last meeting, opinions were expressed about the need to act immediately on flood mitigation. But with all due respect, I believe we need experts to help us chart this course.
John Roschke was on that subcommittee.
Can I finish?
I mean, what do you say?
Well, if you listen and let me speak,
okay,
I'd appreciate it. I respectfully ask members of the township committee to consider supporting my recommendation. Once we have this type of plan in place, and only when we have this type of plan in place, can we move decisively, prudently, and without hesitation in the right direction. Given the stakes that this issue poses for everyone in Millburn, we must do this and start this the right way.
Right. All right.
Regarding, I'm not done. Regarding the formation of a flood mitigation advisory committee, let me be perfectly clear. We all support this concept. We all do. We differ on the size and the composition of this committee. My own perspective on creating an advisory committee on flood mitigation is expressed in a resolution that I'm offering for consideration and approval. Most importantly, however, we must ensure that members recommended for this committee do not present any potential conflicts of interest. Allowing local real estate developers or landlords or others with explicit commercial interests into the committee would be a real mistake for obvious reasons.
Because they want
The
flood mitigation for their properties?
The credibility of this committee would be called into question every step of the way. For example, there's a building in the downtown district that's been partially condemned due to structural damage. The township may need to take action on this property. Should we appoint the owner of this property to the advisory committee?
We should.
If we do, excuse me, if we do, questions would be raised naturally and immediately about potential conflicts of interest. With so much important work to do, we do not need nor shall we welcome these type of conflicts of interest. Aside from concerns like this, there is no doubt that having input from local stakeholders will be valuable to an expert-led assessment. So tonight, unless there are strong objections from the majority of the township committee, I'm going to ask the business administrator to solicit proposals for a comprehensive flood mitigation assessment from the best professionals with the best credentials for the entire township. While members of our township committee may differ on steps in this process to address flood mitigation, we all want the same thing for Millburn. We all want to move decisively to lessen the impact of storms on our residents, their homes, and local businesses. We all want to find ways to prevent the loss of life caused by these devastating storms. And we all want to do this right. In my opinion, that translates into finding and securing the right experts who can help us. While the township has made wise and prudent investments in flood mitigation in the past, I believe this is the first time that we're initiating a process on a comprehensive basis for the entire township led by experts. I would welcome the input of township committee on this recommendation so our business administrator can move quickly in the right direction. Finally, as part of this overall mission, I invite members of the township committee to work with me on coming up with recommendations on how we might recruit experts like FEMA and the state to help educate our residents on storm preparation, which is really a very pressing issue. It's clear that we all need to be better prepared, not when, but for when, not if the next major storm arrives. Thank you so much.
All right. I would believe that if you hadn't told me that you didn't want Nicholas Bocelli on it because he wasn't our friend and he wasn't nice to us on Facebook. But sure, I'm glad you wrote that whole statement up.
I have a question. And I don't really know, these resolutions have been changed, they've been tabled. I found out at 3 o'clock this afternoon that Mayor Prupis and myself were being removed from this committee, that we are the only ones who really have any history and knowledge. And we are being replaced by Mr. Wasserman and Mr. Vinayak. They do not flood. They have no idea. Ms. Miggins, I guess, can't be on it because she sells houses in my neighborhood that do flood. So she does profit from my neighborhood. Mr. Vinayak, I don't know how long you have lived in New Jersey or how long you have lived in Millburn.
Double the time from Mayor Prupis.
I know.
She has been here 4 years.
I know, Mr. Vinayak, that
and
you
were mayor of the town before 2 years ago. You didn't put this committee on. So if you want to talk to me, talk to me.
Can you let Committeewoman Eglos speak just like I let Mayor Wasserman
Mr. Vinayak, you do not have my history. You do not understand. You did not go down to Washington and lobby 2 years. You did not sit on the mayor's flood committee. You do not know what Mr. Heller knows as far as Millburn. Mr. Heller is the only one who has videos of how the flood waters come down from the West Branch. I know they meet in my backyard, the east to the West Branch. We have neighbors here who don't understand, because you can't see them because you're not here tonight. Even through my chemotherapy, I did not miss any meetings. I have never missed a meeting in 5 years, okay? It's what I do. It's what I love. It's why I live here and why I ran for office twice. Mr. Vinayak, you cannot say what I say, okay? You are, Mr. Vinayak, are looking to destroy our 911. You are looking to hurt our 911 system.
Point of order. Mr. Carney, we have rules, we have interim rules that talk about decorum. You're not allowed to put down another member.
I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying he does not know what I know.
Well, you also said some other things that weren't nice.
I'll have to watch the video.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Vinayak,
can I also make a motion to let these people speak? I'd actually like to hear them.
Now you want to let them speak.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, that's right.
Please.
Please. I'd like to hear them speak.
Please don't clap. Please don't clap. You guys, please don't clap.
Mm-hmm.
Please come up.
Wait a minute. Wait. Stop. You have a motion. You need a second.
They all right. So I would.
I make a motion. Let the people speak.
We need a second.
Let the people speak.
I'd like to make
so,
a motion.
Mr. Carney, can you please direct the circus right now?
That you're leading.
Yes. So
really?
here is what is before the Township Committee. Right now, there is a motion to open to the public. You need a second, and then given the different votes, I would recommend a roll call vote. Or somebody can move one of the resolutions that are before you.
Oh, no, I second.
I'm
let
going
the
to make a
people
motion
speak.
to open it to public comment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Do I have a roll call vote to open it to public comment for our residents and anyone else that wants to speak to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Saul-Eglow?
Yes.
Please don't.
Ms. Vinayak?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Please come up and speak. Just state your name and your address, if you'd like to, your name and address of where you live. To the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. I think Kim wanted to come up first, William. Go for it. Thank you.
Mayor, sorry, are you?
We're not timing tonight.
Okay. Just wanted.
I don't know. Is it okay? Do I have consensus not to time?
Actually, I would recommend that you follow the procedures you always have done here.
Okay,
so
that's fine. I wanted to give them extra time, but it's okay.
This is a public.
I hear you.
Okay.
You'll have 2.5 minutes and then 30 seconds to finish up after the 3 minutes total.
Sure, I won't talk for long. I'm just gonna read my little thing that I wrote. My name is Kimberly Mew. I live at 825 Ridgewood Road. My house was severely affected by Ida. Everything in our house, all our rooms, including the bedrooms, were destroyed. Everything in our house had to be thrown away. My kids' baby memorabilia, the things my husband and I saved from our childhoods, our important papers, all our clothes, electronics, beds, furniture, everything is gone. The night of the flood, we had to be rescued by the fire department in the front of a plow. As we waited for the fire department and the water kept rising, my 5-year-old daughter asked if we were going to die. I don't like to think about what would have happened had we stayed in our house and the fire department hadn't come for us. The next day, my father-in-law, who was visiting us, couldn't even sit up without feeling dizzy and vomiting. My husband had to take him to the ER. The days after the flood, I worried about the things you'd imagine, like how do we afford to rebuild and replace everything, and where would we live? But I also worried about the things that you take for granted, like how to pack my kids' lunch for school, and would we even have clothes for the next day? I got socks a few days after the Ida. I had never appreciated socks so much. Someone asked us what we needed most, and even though we needed everything, we had nowhere to go and nowhere to put anything. I asked for camping mats to sleep on and duffel bags to carry the few things we had left. Now we are living in an apartment since our house is uninhabitable. Our kids, who are frankly taking this better than us, keep asking us when we will go home. I am asking for each of you to not let politics or whatever is holding you guys up to get in the way of moving forward with the committee and the easement projects. As our township representatives, listen to us. Listen to the people you represent and hear us when we tell you our stories. Listen when we say we are in pain, we are hurting, and we are suffering. You guys have the power and the responsibility to do something about it. No 5-year-old should ever have to ask if they're going to die. I never want my daughter or son to ever feel that way again. Your home is supposed to be somewhere you feel safe. We do not feel safe and cannot feel safe until something is done. The committee and the easements are just a start. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Would anybody else like to make a comment?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Paulo. I live on Locust Avenue, 88 Locust, with my wife and 2 children. First of all, I'd like to thank Joanna, Nicole, and Galina Zuckerman, who wasn't mentioned here tonight, and all the volunteers they represent. They made a huge difference in our lives, and we'll be forever grateful for everything you've done for us. Our family moved to Millburn on August last year. On September 1st, we had nearly 9 feet of water in the backyard. As many of the newer residents, we had no idea of the history of flooding in our town, which is particularly bad in our side of South Mountain section. So I never imagined the water could get such heights. As the water was coming in, we started pushing the water to our sump pumps, desperately hoping that that would be enough. Our children, who are 3 and 6 years old, were by our side the entire time, watching our desperate efforts to contain the damage, as they would not obey our calls to go up to their bedrooms. When the sump pumps began to overflow, we gave up and put the kids to bed. About 15 minutes later, our neighbor told us that they were leaving the house. When we then decided to wake up our children and evacuate. Our basement was flooded to the ceiling. We had another 2 feet of water on our main floor. We lost everything. I'm not gonna go through the list here. But as we didn't know the story of the history of floods in the area, and since our house is not located in a high-risk flood zone, we had no flood insurance. Our homeowners insurance denied our claim entirely, and the cost to rebuild our house is well over $100,000. So knowing that this was third 100-year flood that we've had in the past 22 years, and knowing that a section of the city can be hit by 9 feet of water, I cannot imagine there's a more pressing matter to be addressed at this moment than discussing the solutions to mitigate damage from future floods. This was not our first, and I'm sure won't be our last flood. I contacted some of you committee members who voted against the creation of this flood committee. I thank Mr. Wasserman for being the only one who actually agreed to speak with me. But some of you spoke that there was more research that needed to be done to create that committee. But that's why committees are formed, to research, debate, and come up with solutions. So my questions to you are, why do you oppose forming this committee? What additional research do you need to see to support it? And what are you personally doing to help those of us who had their houses destroyed by the flood? We're 8 months away from the next hurricane season. What will happen if we have another Ida? No one can guarantee that will not happen. We have to prepare for that, and we have to start right now. We don't have another month, like Ms. Higgins suggested in the last meeting. We need to come up with real solutions that can be implemented quickly and locally. It's been almost 2 months since Ida changed our lives. I truly hope that as our representatives and our neighbors, we will take the steps to prevent this from ever happening again to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gayan Mishra. I live in 823 Ridgewood Road next to Kim. Me, my wife, and my 2 kids, we moved to Millburn June of last year. We thought we found the perfect community. We played badminton, we played tennis, we had barbecue with our neighbors. It was like the best decision we made in our life until September 1st. I was in a soccer meeting for my son's team, and at 9:45 p.m., my wife came running. Are you not hearing the fire alarm? I'm like, what fire alarm? And when I run down, I literally see water coming from a mudroom. Our basement was completely flooded by that time. We look outside and we see water everywhere. I just didn't know what to do. We were completely shocked. We were frantically calling our neighbors to see how they are doing. we were thinking, should we just pack up and leave, or what can I do? I was literally trying to move whatever things I could from, I was trying to move my keyboard, I was trying to move other things, but I just didn't know how much, where should I move it? In the end, we decided, you know what, I think we should start packing. We don't know we're gonna stay in this house. We were all going to our bedrooms and watching the water rise. At one point, the water started coming to our living room. The first step of our bedroom water started reached that level. And we're very worried at that point what we will do. I cannot tell you how devastating, how frightening that can be to have your kids and everybody and watch your entire life unfold in front of you in a matter of minutes. And you don't know what to do. All I'm asking you is, I don't understand your politics. I don't want to understand politics. All I want to do is whatever I've seen from so far, whatever we've listened to engineers, all we know is they talk and they talk and they talk and they come up with these grand plans that never get implemented. We do not want this Hurricane Ida to be a repeat of what has done in the past, where we just have engineers come and talk and give proposals and nothing happens. We want real residents, we want real people who got affected to be part of a committee, and everybody's voices can be heard, where we all can come like this in this forum and hear what they're proposing. I would love to hear some engineers come and talk and give a proposal, but at the same time, we don't want an Army Corps of Engineers-like proposal which doesn't get implemented. So please, I'm begging you, do something about it. We've already lost 2 months. We have 8 months to go. And I know these things will not happen overnight. So please, we have the flood mitigation committee, we have the easement, we had the mayor come in our backyard, we had McDonald's come to our backyard. It was so nice to see them that they're trying to do something, to change something. If you need any help from us, if you want us to get the easement done, we will make that happen. But please do your part and get these committees rolling and the easement up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is April. I live at 822 Ridgewood Road. I'm also Kim's neighbor. And I don't need to repeat how bad the night was. Kim made me reminded me, like my son was also asking, are we gonna leave? That was a really scary question. And the only thing I want to say here today is, I know all of you guys serve at the town committee. You're good people. You're volunteers, like you hardly get paid. And you're spending so much time and effort for the town of people. It's public service. So even if there's some disagreement, I don't see there's real conflicts here. And you guys all have good intention. You want to do the things right. You want to do things in the best way. And as a resident, as a victim of Ida this time, we want to do things in a fast way. So I believe we can come to agreement, like how many subcommittee member can be appointed. I don't know if there's a number limit. If other town committee member wants to appoint more, is that okay to add more members? I don't know. If there's no limit, why don't we just have more people and more people work on it? We need more hands, we need more efforts, we need more brains. That would be great. But I'm so surprised to learn that Mayor Tara and Diane was removed from the committee. I don't know why and who can make that decision or who has authority to make that decision. It's not just they've been done so much work to help the town to spend all the day and nights to do all the work, and they're the one not like they're affected personally. Maybe Diane was flooded also, but she's not flooded so seriously. But she put in more work than any of our victims. She's helping more than helping others more than helping herself. So I believe they should stay on the committee, because not just the engineers, the experts should be on the committee. That totally makes sense. But for this kind of committee, people who also suffered from the flood or who knows the history of the flood serves important function and would help, the whole purpose is if there's some conflict of interest during the time as the progress going on, the whole committee member can remind, whoever has conflict interest. Like everybody's watching. I don't think the people who volunteered for the committee is going there to serve themselves. They're really going there for public service. So I really hope this committee will be pushed forward as quickly as possible. And thank you guys so much for all your time and efforts for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rakesh. I stay in 4 Gilbert Place, neighbor of Kim, Gayan, April. Just wanted to, first of all, just wanted to thank, just hearing us and also giving us, a bunch of solutions here and there. But I wanted to speak about the situation that we have gone through. Right, and then I think majority of our friends and neighbors have already spoken about it. I don't want to go into the deep, but one thing I wanted to bring that there were certain days where we used to just wake up in the morning, and because we used to work from home, I used to come out and the entire roads, entire people are surrounding, people are volunteering, people are coming to help, and so on. And morning to evening, we used to not feel like where the time is going, just because everybody was so busy on understanding like what's going on, why did it happen, what went wrong over here, and so on. Basically, there are a few people who left this place. I mean, they are more. I mean, like it's very emotional, right? It's emotional feeling about what we went through, what happened that last, on that night, and then going forward for a couple of, weeks, there were people surrounding and so on, basically. I just wanted to ask Mr. Wasserman, were you impacted by the flood? Yes?
No, we don't actually do a public
back
and
okay.
forth like this. I appreciate your
comment. Sure. I just wanted to say one thing, and thank you, to interrupt and let us know. Keep yourself and whoever is looking in a situation that okay, we should not form this committee and whatever it is, the reason is, keep yourself in our shoes. If you would be sitting instead of there, on between us, what you would have felt basically. If you would have been impacted by the similar situation, what would it, with the answer would be at the same time as a no, or I understand the research and everything, but would the answer be a no forming that particular committee? And that's just a request. I understand there are certain disagreements, there are certain ways of approaching certain problems and statements and everything, but please keep yourself in our shoes. We are the resident, heavily impacted by that. There were situations where we have a cricket group of WhatsApp group. I was asking like, hey, do you have a dehumidifier? Can you give me? And those so on, basically, right? I request, please help us out. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Yakshi Goyal. I am on 819 Richwood Road. My husband, Neeraj.
I'm Neeraj.
So we are a family of 6. My parents live with us. They're close to 80 years old. We have 2 young kids and a dog. And my mom, she got her knees operated a few years back. 3 of our floors were flooded. We have a split level house and 3 floors out of 4 floors are completely gone. All belongings on those 3 floors are gone. The whole night when it was raining and the water was rising, I was getting worried. I had no idea how I'm going to evacuate my mom in that situation. The only way she could have evacuated the house was breaking through that window And I have no idea how she would have jumped into that forklift or whatever it is called. I have no idea. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. I know everyone here is trying to help us. You must have seen the pictures of the devastation. Those are just pictures of the structural loss and the property loss that you have seen. You probably have not seen the kind of other losses we have gone through in the past 1.5 months. There's like so much, we are literally, it's like a neighbors helping each other right now situation going on. The community has helped us. Joanna, Nicole, Tara, everyone has helped us a lot. They have hugged us. We didn't know most of these people. There are so many behind the scene volunteers who have helped us. Ninu was there. I don't know. She's like a miracle worker for me. Like she was God sent. I would just text her and she was there for me. A friend of mine, she opened her doors for 6 of us and a dog. She is not comfortable with having a dog in her house. She didn't even blink her eye to let us in that situation. I feel that in this past 1.5 months, we have incurred so much loss. It's not just financial loss. It's not, it's emotional trauma. I am still getting dreams about the house getting flooded again. While there's no scope of any more loss, we've lost everything. But I feel that I'm losing my self-respect, begging in front of organizations and different people. We need financial grant. We have been begging. I was on call with organizations, and they were like, oh, 10 feet of water doesn't qualify as a disaster. I feel the same right now, begging in front of you, imploring you that, do something for us. I feel that so many storms have happened in the past. So many studies have already been done. It's time for action now. We need that drain in the backyard between Ridgewood and Locust. We have volunteered. We are going to get signatures from each and every house on that street because there is a problem. The water did not go down for next 18 hours. We could not get our water out of our house till the next evening because there was water in our backyard. The backyard water had to be pumped out before water from our house could be pumped out. Imagine, I have never seen my parents in that situation. They are completely broken because they see us struggling every day. They see my kids struggling every day. My son was homesick. He was completely displaced. My daughter actually has been giving me a lot of strength. She told me after day 15, Mom, you have to stop crying and get the house built. I want that kind of strength from the committee members. I want that strength. I should not feel that, you are not with us. And I don't know what you need to do to work together. I am not good with politics or anything. All I need is support for all my friends here who have been suffering for the past 1.5 months. I'm sorry, I took most of the time.
he can have his own 3 minutes. Don't worry about it.
I think I'll keep it short. I think the part about the losses and the financial stress that this has caused and the emotional stress that this has caused, not in our family, in our neighbors and everyone. I think I don't think if you were not there, or even if you were there and even if you were there the next day, the next day you would have probably felt it. But if you were not there, I don't think you understand what we're going through. We can only try. We've sent pictures, we are talking everybody, and you can see the emotions. They're not some made up emotions. And I think going back to the practical matters of forming this committee, I think it's important to have civilian people part of the committee. That's why the governments are run by civilians and by people and not by experts. You don't run countries with militaries or with technocrats. You run countries with public elected people, public chosen people, because they can understand what a human being is going through and not some drawing that tells them what is the right thing to do. And if it's not the right thing to do, then forget it. I don't think when you were reading your statement, I think I was trying to count how many times you said word expert.
which is what the focus seemed to be. I think you probably said it about 20 times, the word expert in that statement, which means the focus is to make this committee some expert committee. I don't think we need an expert committee. We need experts advise, but we need human beings to make the decisions because this is a human tragedy and humans need to solve it.
I don't think we are waiting for someone to die here in this community before any corrective action needs to be taken. And that night, that's what you heard, Kim. My kids were asking the same question. I'm sure most of the people in this room or on Zoom call or all those impacted, they were asked similar questions by their kids. I don't want to go through this. This community has been amazing. I don't want to lose this community, but give me an opportunity. Please help us stay in this community. I can't live in this fear. No, so every time it rains, I'm just looking at the drain that the front drain is working or not. I don't want to live like this. I'm sorry, I got emotional, but.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Melina Gashkevich and I'm an 86 Locust. I do have a statement prepared, but before I get into that, as I was observing the last hour and a half before the public comment, the one thing that came to mind was it seems like business as usual, and it's not business as usual. The agenda is business as usual. All the discussions are business as usual, and it's not. So if you took the last 2 hours and prioritized what's the highest priority to us, which is the mitigation, and spend those 2 hours instead of, yes, absolutely, two-way traffic is really important, but is that the most urgent thing that we have to talk about today and in the last month? So if you take all of those priorities that you had and focus on the most urgent matter that we have, that we've all experienced, which is the flood mitigation. So I won't repeat a whole lot of what everybody said and whatever we all experienced, but I just really ask that you take the priorities of what we need to focus on, which is the countdown to the next flood, which is we are unprepared just as we were a month ago. We're nowhere closer to being more prepared for the next flood than we were a month and a half ago. And if that happens to any of us again, I can't even imagine what we'd all go through because we all just went through the devastation, the loss, everything that everybody talked about. So one is I ask for, this is not business as usual. So don't treat it as such. Two, I just ask for the politics and everything that you have to be put aside and put action into matter. So plans on paper, fantastic, but we need action and we need commitment and dedication of things that will actually work. And so my biggest question tonight is, how will this time be different than all the previous floods? What will be different, the actions and the things that will happen as a result of this flood? What will be done differently this time than it has the other 2 times? And so for now, we haven't seen any progress on what that would look like to be different. And that's what we need to see. We need to have that trust in all of you that this time will be different. And so far as the residents right now, we're losing trust every single day. And every day to us feels like an eternity. We're not living in our homes, we're displaced. And so every day is not just a day, it's a lifetime right now. And so all of our kids want to go back home. They all want to go back to normal. And we can't do that unless things are actually done. So yes, some things will take 3, 5, 10 years, but other things can be done now. And so I just ask for the action versus things on paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a number of hands raised on the phone as well, please.
Hi, Katrina Schmidt, 6 Greenwood. I'm not going to talk about everything that everybody already talked about. We had about a foot of water in our first floor. What I feel is that I have zero confidence in the township committee to do anything for this. I feel like it's deja vu. 10 years ago, we had the experts, we had the studies, we had mitigation efforts, and we're in the same spot. Like nothing has changed and nothing has gotten better. I almost think we have to think outside the box and beyond the experts and go to put like money out there as a contest for all different people to come up with different things than engineers and everybody else has already come up with, because it's not helping. Or we've had ideas get shut down, like a dam in the South Mountain Reservation because of environmental things. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that I don't know about that have been proposed and have not happened, right? So I just ask you guys to prove me wrong and give me some confidence that there's actually something that you can do, because I have zero confidence that anything will be done. And I'm sure that 10 years from now, somebody else will be in the same position saying the same things that I'm saying. And I would just, really ask you guys to prove me wrong. So that's what
Thank you.
Good evening. Good afternoon. My name is Al Carlin. I've been a resident for 28 years and was not prepared to speak tonight, but I just want to say a couple of things. On September, I guess it was 27th, 2011, the mayor, Sandra Haim, said that there should be pre-storm planning. Very, very vital to this community. And we're still planning and we're still having problems. I don't know. Sandra, perhaps some of you do know Sandra. Diane?
Sandra Hamos?
Yes.
Yes, I do know her. And her family lived on my street, which the new neighbor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
No, I didn't know. What I'm saying is, I don't know this, whatever. But I just say that this has been going on for 10 years and it came up with an entire list of things that should be done. I mean, this is nothing new to the committee. Several weeks ago, I had the pleasure of meeting and speaking to Joe DiVincenzo, and he happened to mention that the safety, health, and welfare of Essex County residents is his primary concern. And I certainly wish and hope in the future that is the same issue for the Township Committee. That would be a novel thing and hopefully something to think about first rather than other items. Two-way traffic is important. I believe in that also. You'll be bringing in other things. I believe in traffic control. I believe in safety of children. All this is all good. But as the county executive says, there are certain things that should be prioritized. I told him about what was said on September 1st meeting. No, many people did not believe what happened at the September 1st meeting. County executive people did not, neither did ABC News. She said, no. What were you discussing during the meeting? When Ida was coming in, you were discussing taking over a particular property on Millburn Avenue that's how many years old? Let's not go there. But I'm saying, what is the priority? Priority should be the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens. My opinion, I could be wrong, but hopefully not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, we'll go, there's a few hands on the phone that we will take now. And this is just on the phone, this is just to the topic of the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee.
Hi, good evening. This is Perry Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue. Listening to these residents ourselves, we have donated to some of the residents. It's a terrible misfortune what's happened. I myself and many other people have experienced multiple floods and different instances. It appears that I see the mayor and you're listening to your residents and you want to help your residents. But why don't you explain to your residents why you left Town Hall September 1st, one of the first ones out the door, and you left your BA and your clerk and your fire chief to man the town. Committeewoman Eglow, I understand what you're saying, and it's important to you because it's your neighborhood.
Excuse me.
And it's devastating.
However, no, this is not about the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee. And I actually have the residents in the room saying, what is she talking about? So either bring yourself back to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, and we all know how you feel about it. So you don't have to spend everyone's time talking about me.
No, and then also, so for Miss Eglo, now you want everyone.
No one wants to hear this, Miss
For your situation, but bring it back to when you told all the people that live, all the residents behind Commercial, that they knew that they were dying. How dare you?
Is this about the flood mitigation? Okay, let's go on.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's time to move it on. Thank you.
You jumped ship, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so sorry. Ms. Sherman.
Thank you.
This is only about the flood mitigation advisory committee.
It is only about flood mitigation.
Advisory committee. We will end the call, and I have residents in the room shaking in their heads. This nobody wants to hear about the politics or how you don't like me. Thank you.
All right. I will say that in 1997, 1999, 2011, and again here, I am speaking at a township committee meeting following a devastating flood. In the past, we have been angry and frustrated and demanded action. I have spoken to almost everyone who has spoken this evening. I walked around the neighborhood and I met all of them, and their stories are heartbreaking. This is my fourth flood, and I understand. But what I would say is that I don't think that any township committee has ever been unresponsive. I think that the Millburn Township Committee is fully supportive of flood mitigation efforts along the Rahway River. My group has stayed away from your disagreement on the size and composition of the Flood Mitigation Committee, but I have every hope that this will move forward and that it will find, actually I like some of what Mr. Wasserman said about looking for short, mid and long-term solutions. I know that the mayor is working very hard to advance the consensus plan. She puts a lot of effort into it. The one caveat I would say is that there is no quick and easy solution. We've been working on this for 20 years. I think I would like to see the committee look at issues such as desilting and desnagging on the river and how we can expedite permits. I know that would be something Mr. McDonald would be involved in. And something that I've never heard mentioned before, which is how can people like me retrofit our homes so that we reduce flooding in ways that a newly constructed house is able to do so. So I thank the Township Committee for their efforts. I am hopeful that whatever committee is formed will be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Lieberberg. Are you speaking tonight?
Jackie, you're muted.
All right, let's go on. We'll come back if her hand remains up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good evening.
Okay, hello. My name is Christine Klufus. I live at 830 Ridgewood Road. As a person being the third time underwater in South Mountain, I feel this is no way to live. After Hurricane Irene, the township of Millburn worked on the sewers, built a wall higher, and did other preventive measures. None of this worked for Hurricane Ida. With global warming, this will happen again and sooner. Being a person without water engineering knowledge, I still have questions. These are my questions. Number one, since the sewers back up during these huge storms, what can be done about this? Is there anything that can be done about this? Could they somehow be shut down during severe storms, at least for a short time? All of Holland is underwater without dikes. Can we build something comparable or do something comparable? I don't know. I hope these are not silly questions, but there are other countries and places where somehow they're able to conquer the problems. Finally, I feel that we cannot wait. Some measures need to be taken, the sooner the better. As far as my personal home is concerned, I'm 100% certain that this will happen again. I know in my heart that I have to leave Millburn. I know in my heart that the township will not be able to do enough. This is sad, but it's a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mohammed, we're going to take Mohammed and then.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Mohammed, we can't hear you.
Thank you to
No. Okay, let's go to Sabah and then we'll go back.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, everybody. I'm a little emotional right now. I was ready to speak, but I don't know if I've never really been at a loss for words, but right now I just have so much I wish I could say. And I've been sitting through this since the beginning. My husband was there, but I didn't see him, but I heard you, Mayor Tara, I heard you, ask him to stay. But I know he was probably really upset when he heard the other committee members say no to us speaking in the beginning. First of all, I do want to thank, Joanna and Nicole and every volunteer that's helped us. I want to thank you, Mayor Prupus. I want to thank you, Diane, for just showing how much you care and trying to do everything you can to help us, okay? I don't know the other committee members. I don't know you, but I'll tell you something. I want to say shame on you. I want to say shame on you for delaying anything that could help us, for delaying anything that could somehow prevent this from happening to another family. When I'm sitting here watching all of my friends, and I want to say friends, but they're more like my family, Kim and Yakshi and Niraj and Mohammed and April and Jeff and Christine and Rakesh and everybody, please, and Milena, everybody, this is like our family, our little neighborhood. We're like a family, and it's broken. It's completely broken now. My son also asked the same thing that all those other children asked that night. And every time it rains, the night of the concert at the paper mill, it came down so hard. I called the fire department in a panic, and Chief Echeverria was here, and he came in my home, and he just assured me, he's such a kind man. He came and assured me that the storm had passed and that this wasn't going to happen again. I've never felt like this before. I never knew. When I bought this home, I was not aware of the flooding in Millburn. I didn't know. It was not disclosed to us in our title. And when we bought the home, what was disclosed to us was that there was a little bit of basement water in Irene. I found out later that was not true. I found out on the Zoom call from Blue Acres that it's not even the responsibility of the realtor to disclose the flooding issues that you've had in the past or that your home has had in the past. I was really in the dark until every person who showed up to what's left of my home, whether it be the water softener person or the fire department or the person putting in my new boiler or hot water tank saying, oh, not again, not again. I felt like how did I not know this? Really, like I felt like I failed my son. I'm supposed to keep my son safe, right? I had no idea this could happen to us. When he asked me if we're going to flood, when my husband was outside, when our neighbors were getting water before any even started to enter our home, when he asked me I said, no, honey, everything's fine. We have these French drains and 2 sump pumps and this and that. And I thought I knew. Well, I really didn't. And now I understand why my husband would get nervous every time it rained, because my husband understands the engineering much better than I do or ever did. Now I'm trying to learn, and I will continue to do so, because I will never, ever, I will do everything I can to prevent this from happening to somebody else again. And I know nobody asked for this, and I know everybody up there right now, even if you are delaying this committee from forming, I know that no one wanted this to happen to our families or to the people in this town or the businesses. But with that being said, I'll say it again, shame on you for stopping anybody or anything from trying to help us going forward. If someone's going to volunteer their time to help, who cares if they're an expert? Who cares? I listened to you, Mr. Wasserman. I don't know you, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I listened to you read what you were reading before we were able to speak. And you were reading off a piece of paper, and you weren't speaking. You weren't speaking from inside of you. That's not what I felt anyways. And I don't know you, so I'm sorry if I'm being disrespectful. You know, I've never heard you speak before until tonight, so maybe that's just how you speak. But I'll tell you something. We need the people. We need the people who have been through this to be on this committee, to show their experiences, to put their experiences down, to work with the experts to move forward. Because just like everybody said that spoke before me, this is going to happen again and again and again. I have read so much about what's happened in the past.
I'm just going to interrupt you because we are sticking to the 3-minute time limit, and there's so many people in the room and on the thing. But thank you, and thank you for your.
I'm sorry if I got
really emotional. Do not apologize. Do not apologize.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for everything you've done, everybody who's helped us. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back to Mohammed and see if he's going to speak, and then I think we're going to just start to wrap it up, because I think we're going to have some Jackie's on there.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you very much to Joanna and Nicole for all the volunteers and everyone who has put in so much time and effort and care and compassion to helping us get back on our feet. I am the not resident of 825 Ridgewood Road. My wife is Kimberly. You heard from her. I'm not going to expand on the sheer fear that was going through my children, my father, my wife, and myself the night of the flood. I want to just ask everyone who's voting to either form or not form this committee to look inside themselves and imagine for themselves what it would be like if their home had been utterly devastated by raw sewage, water that would go over your head, and then have to come back the next day just to see water still sitting where you would normally be playing soccer with your kids or throwing a Frisbee, and then having to come back the next day just to see the extent of the devastation in your home. And frankly, it's disheartening that the choice that you're making in order to form or not form this community, be it with reservations or not, or considerations, would be to not at least take a step forward where people are volunteering their time and the best expertise that they have, with the understanding that their lives could have just been in our positions. I'm asking you to put yourselves in our position as well, to really feel like if you were presented with what amounts to roadblocks to any kind of progress, whether you would find that something that you could live with, and whether you feel like that was a fair shake for someone who had the ability to do something and chose to not. I really hope that you look inside yourselves just to imagine what it would be like to have to shovel poop with 40 strangers in your basement into buckets to carry it out, because that's the only way that you could even start to rebuild your lives, is just to dig yourself out of filth. I hope it never happens to anyone on the township committee. I hope it happens to no one else in Millburn ever again, but we aren't going to get there unless we start putting concrete actions and steps in front of us and start making our way through them. Again, thank you very much to the volunteers and to everyone who has opened their hearts and rolled up their sleeves and stayed with me in a basement, a hot basement in the middle of September, sweating amongst what can only be described as utter filth. Thank you, and please vote with your heart, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. Okay, I
didn't get to go the first time around. I'm sorry, because you skipped over to
Excuse me, you're interrupting the
Oh, I'm
meeting, Ms.
sorry.
Pasternak. Excuse me, please sit down. Thank you very much. Please sit down. I think it's time for us to continue this comment. So public comment on this specific committee is now closed, and I'd like to make a motion to put resolution 20. I would like to put a motion on the table 21-275 as was stated at the last meeting. The committee woman Gayan Mishra, this is to establish the duties and to expand the committee that committee woman Eglo and I did to 14 people from 12. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
No.
Ms. Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
No.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
No.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to, I guess there's no expanding the committee. I'd like to make a motion to 21-280. Can I have a second?
Second.
There's a second.
Mr. Carney, I have a motion.
Roll call vote, please.
No, Mr. Carney, I have a motion also.
I already did a motion and there was a second. So now there's a roll call vote, please.
What? I don't even
Roll
know
call 28-280, 21-280. Appointment to members of the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee that committee woman Eglo and I announced at the last meeting.
That's table.
I made the motion, right?
You have a motion, you have a second.
Okay.
You need to do a roll call vote.
A roll call vote, please. You can make the motion next. A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins? Ms. Miggins?
Or can we do, wait a minute,
Hold on one second. Everybody just so we can.
Every committee member can make their own motion. What is on the floor right now is a motion for resolution 21-280 in your township committee packets.
Right.
So you need a roll call vote on that. And that's what I would recommend. And then Mr. Wasserman, if that's defeated, if you want to make a motion, you can make your motion.
But I have a roll call vote on the motion?
Yes, but right now,
Mr. Carney, can you just clarify what 21-280 is for people so they can follow this?
It's the packet, the resolution for the appointed committee that is on the table up here that was in the packet that went out.
It says to appoint members to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee tabled from October 5th.
So all those people that I read, I should read them again? Would you like me to read them again?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I will read them again. I will read what motion we're talking about. Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee.
It's stated in the packet.
I know, but I think everybody wants to know who I wanted to appoint to the thing, right? Okay. So to appoint to the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, this is the appointments being proposed. Sarah Sherman and Gayan Mishra, right, would be the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee with business administrator or their designee, with the municipal engineer, and with the superintendent of public works. Sarah Sherman, Mike Roberts, Rich Keller, Spiro Comedius, Richard Footer, Jim McCanna, Jen Duckworth, Colleen Kirk, Miriam Kerstoy, Carrie Heller, Joe Esposito, Nick Boccelli, Laura Palomaki, and Steve Taylor. A roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
No.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
No.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
No.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion now. I'd like to make a motion for resolution 21-275, amended resolution 21-275 to establish a flood mitigation advisory committee. Whereas the township of Millburn recently experienced devastating flooding as a result of tropical storm Ida that severely impacted both residential and commercial properties within the township and, well, thank you for handing that out, sir. whereas the township has periodically experienced substantial flooding events over the last several decades. Whereas the Township Committee tabled resolutions 21-275 and 21-280 at its meeting of October 5th, 2021 to be taken up for further consideration at this meeting of October 19th. And whereas the Township Committee has considered the matter at this meeting of October 19th, 2021, and desires to implement an approach which will obtain a study of the most current hydrological and engineering information concerning the flooding conditions in the township and convene meetings of a committee hereinafter established, known as the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee, to analyze, consider, and make recommendations to the Township Committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Committee in the Township of Millburn in the County of Essex and State of New Jersey on this 19th day of October 2021 as follows. The Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee is hereby established and consists of 5 public officials and up to 9 public members to serve until December 31st, 2021. The officials of the township designated to serve on the advisory committee are Deputy Mayor Richard Wasserman and myself as chairperson, Committeeman Sanjeev Vinayak, the business administrator or designee, the township engineer, the superintendent of public works. Number 3, the public members shall be promptly appointed in the near future as to complete the membership of the advisory committee. Following the formation of the balance of the membership of the advisory committee, the full advisory committee shall promptly meet to commence its activities. It shall therefore meet no less frequently than once per month and will formulate a report to the township committee consisting of formulate a report to the township committee consisting of recommended measures and actions for implementation and funding by the township committee. It is anticipated that the township committee shall continue the advisory committee by resolution adopted at the reorg meeting in January 2022. The business administrator is authorized and directed to solicit a proposal for the performance of the above mentioned study from the professional engineering consultant firm Mock McDonald, which firm has performed earlier studies and consultant services for the township on the subject of flood mitigation. Following receipt of the proposal, and if satisfied as to the scope of the services and project costs, the Township Committee may award professional services agreement by the adoption of a resolution. Number 6, Resolution 21-262 is repealed, and by the terms hereof, tabled Resolution 21-280 is withdrawn. Number 7, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Can I make an amendment to the resolution?
Oh boy, you have a motion. I think Richard made a motion.
I'll second his motion.
I'll second his motion. You're second his motion.
Totally. We need a flood mitigation advisory committee. I just want to make an amendment.
Do we discuss though?
No, so you have a motion, you have a second. Then you're supposed to.
I think they just want.
Then you do. Then you. Well, you can have a discussion on this resolution if you want to talk further about it, and then you can do a roll call vote.
So I'm going to second, and then we'll talk. Then we'll have a. When can I make the amendment?
I don't think you can make the amendment. You have a resolution on the floor right now, ready for a vote. You should go for a roll call vote.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Wait, we're not going to discuss it?
Well, yes, discussion, roll call. That's the traditional thing.
Okay, I second it. Okay, now we're going to discuss it.
Right.
Committeewoman Egglin.
Okay, so I want to make note that I found this out at 3 o'clock this afternoon, that Mr. Wasserman and Mr. Vinayak, and I've already said my piece on that. I've also found out they're lowering this to 9 members from 14. And the 14 members was a very strategic number because we had 3 people from South Mountain, 3 from Glenwood, 3 from the business district, and 3 others to just round it off. These people had experience. I don't know now if we have to have a second meeting on this, right? It just passes tonight. We don't have to have.
Yes, no, it passes tonight
Oh,
if you have the votes.
tonight. Okay, if it has the votes. Well, the three have been working behind the scenes, and I guess they have their votes. So I guess they first have to go out and find their 9 members.
I don't know if we get a say.
So here's the thing.
But the committee will happen. Don't worry, everyone.
The committee will happen
tonight. It will absolutely happen under Richard's watch. That it probably was. That it probably was.
Yeah. So my question is.
I don't think so.
No.
I thought we were agreeing, Ms. Stone.
Okay, so here's the discussion. I find that we do need a flood committee meeting, a mitigation advisory. It cannot just be experts. We have many reports that have been done by Mott McDonald in the past. We have the reports. The whole purpose of this was to get input from the community. And one of the most important people was also Mike Roberts, who was the former fire chief and who lives in the Glenwood section, which floods on Meadowbrook. I don't know what the plan is of my 3 members who have now removed me and the mayor, who honestly have the most amount of experience and knowledge here, but so be it. I think that if Mr. Wasserman thinks he can take the ball and run with it, because I know there's a lot of backroom deals, and I am so sorry to the public because we have not been acting in the best way, but we're just a little upset because.
Right, hey, so let's please stop. No one's clapping. We're not clapping.
No, she's playing a violin. So anyway, This is just, it's a tragedy, but make sure this will be open. Hopefully that Mr. Wasserman's committee will be open to the public. I can go as a resident. I can speak for you. You will all speak for yourself. We will make sure that the things that I know, Ms. Sherman talked about, de-snagging, silting. We've done that, Ms. Sherman. We have spent a lot of time getting cleanup down the tributaries. We had huge deal having Orange clear the dam of huge log jams. It has to be done continuously. I will share my knowledge. If I'm named on the committee or not, I will be in your audience, Mr. Wasserman. Good luck.
I hope that it is a public meeting with public comment that will be watched, because it wasn't written in that. So I know that that wasn't your intention at all. And the other thing is, I hope that as soon as this meeting is over, the 3 of you will give directive to Mr. McDonald to make sure that letter gets out to the residents between Greenwood and Ridgewood and Locust, which you've been holding up, just so that they all know that they've been holding it up. And I hope you'll also give me consensus to go back to the mayor's council to have them, give the money to John Rushke to do the studying instead of spending it at the lobbying firm. But you have my vote for this flood mitigation committee that should have happened 2 weeks ago. So I vote yes.
Roll call
vote, please.
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Stahl-Eglo?
Pass. Come back.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Prupus?
Absolutely yes.
Thank you.
You have to go back to Ms.
Wait.
You have to come back to.
Right.
With heavy heart, I vote for this because we need this committee. It's not the way it should be formed, but yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep all the side comments in the same. My mother fell down 16 flights of stairs today. She's in surgery at Morristown Memorial Hospital. She broke her femur bone. I am now going to go be with my family. I wish you all, thank you. And you can continue the meeting.
Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Let's just take a 5-minute break, please. Yes.
Thank you.
I never met you.
My daughter, Kim.
Deborah. What's the name of your daughter? Rebecca. Because there was a Rebecca Feld that was bringing your apart. You and your all right, we met before. I know it's gonna like. What are you trying for? Yeah, that's the whole point.
That's who I am. I was always into people. That's why they always promise. These new dangerous goods and all that stuff. And that's why they always take because I look at the Israeli government. And they do hazardous material. And they ships with bombs, so forth. So they do that to make sure that they get people in the sites.
Yeah.
My people can get there. We can't do this. Just, I get so upset with I read now 100, this is a page 100 and then I read his job description. Really detailed. I'm crazy. I read this
The primary goal of code enforcement is to gain compliance with the law in order to protect right? Is that, I mean, look, I'm not, like, you, yeah. Are we still talking about the electrical?
And I was going to say,
why?
Just
tell me why. I know he said it. I know I said, but why? Why do you have to?
Okay, because if there is a violation, if it requires in-person or if it's a fighting
However, right, but now the individual has done the work.
Not just making a difference, because someone else, it happens in the town, it's not recorded. Someone else use them, Fletcher, and it's not been recorded officially. So no one knows it because it's not an official violation. That's what happened down there in Florida.
But if they pulled a permit and they did it correctly.
No, that's not the point. It was a violation. So
but you reported the violation. You didn't issue a summons.
No.
We're starting right there.
That's not the summons.
Okay. All right, I understand.
And the whole thing is also it has to go to the state. They give $1 fine,
Right.
no problem. It has to be recorded. So
okay.
I was unofficial.
All right, they're going to get started. I understand what you're saying. I do.
So that's why
Violation, not summons. Doesn't have to pay a fine, but at least a violation.
Okay, we're going to get started again. Please, everybody, come sit down. Please, we're going to get started. Cyclo. Okay. All right, everybody. Everybody, please sit down. Anyway, thank you for it. This is going to run a little late. We'll go expeditiously. So we're up to ordinance introduction, ordinance number 2591-21. Our schedule to be sponsor ordinance. Let's see, we are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2591-21. This is a procedure from introducing an ordinance on first reading. I'd like to present this ordinance entitled ordinance number 2591-21. An ordinance authorizing the acquisition by purchase of a 342 square foot easement over a portion of the real property located at 375 Hobart Avenue, known as Block 3302, Lot 7, and the appropriating the sum of $2,100 to pay the cost thereof. Mr. McDonald, do you want to give just a short statement on this?
Sure. This is what I was speaking about at the beginning of the meeting, that the traffic signal installation at the corner of Hobart Gap and Hobart. This particular ordinance is for the acquisition of a small piece of the corner by easement for the installation of traffic signal equipment.
Wonderful, thank you. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law and the item and for a hearing and final passage on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. May I have a second?
Second.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Stahl-Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Miggins is scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2592-21. Ms. Miggins?
Yep, thank you. An ordinance authorizing the acquisition by purchase of a 2,161 square foot portion of the real property located at 375 Hobart Avenue. Is that one mine? Yeah. Also known as Block 3302, Lot 7, and appropriating the sum of $72,900.
A statement of purpose. Well, this ordinance is being proposed to authorize the acquisition
of more property.
Yeah.
So we can get that whole light up there.
Yeah. Right. So this is acquisition of a portion of real property located at the corner of Hobart Avenue and Hobart Gap Road, which we've been working on forever.
Yes.
In order to enable certain signal and related infrastructure improvements to be made to the intersection. Mr. McDonald, do you want to just say anything else?
The difference here is that this is actual taking of property, not an easement. And this will accommodate for the dedicated left-hand turn going toward Route 124 and 24 on White Oak Ridge Road.
I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item, and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021.
May I have a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Scotty?
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Stahl-Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and right now we come to another part here where I believe, well, the mayor's not here right now, but Ms. Eglo.
I'm recused, thank
you're
you.
going to recuse yourself. This is ordinance number 2593-21. And I am the chair, and the recusees are not here. Okay, ordinance 2593-21. I'm scheduled to sponsor this. 2593-21. Procedure for introducing an ordinance on first reading. I'd like to present an ordinance entitled the ordinance number 2593-21, ordinance amending and supplementing the Township of Millburn Development Regulations and Zoning Ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is a furtherance of conditions of a settlement agreement resolving certain litigation brought by the Township of Millburn in the Superior Court of New Jersey Law Division, Essex County, captioned the matter of the Township of Millburn, docket number ESX-L-2778-18, the litigation. The ordinance also adopts the zoning ordinance implementing the essential terms and conditions of the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement will not become implemented until approved by the court at a fairness hearing that will be scheduled in the future by the court and will be subject to of a published notice that will set forth the date, time, and place of the fairness hearing and advise of an opportunity to be heard. The fairness hearing is in addition to and not lieu of the statutory public hearing to be held on this ordinance as set forth in the requisite published notice. Let's see, Mr. Carney, maybe you can just brief us on what this all means.
Sure. Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So at your last meeting, you actually had a first reading of an ordinance. The fairness hearing, by the way, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, is now scheduled for December 15th, and the immunity of the township is in play through the day after the fairness hearing. The change that has been made to this ordinance that is before you tonight is all about the building height that your township engineer reviewed and inserted language in paragraph 6 of that ordinance regarding the building height. That's really the difference between the two. And if you'd like, yes, we are. No, so I'll just read this. This is what it now says about building height. The maximum building height shall be 4 stories and 48 feet. Building height shall be measured from 8 inches below finished floor to the deck level of the roof above for purpose of measuring height, stairways, architectural features, elevators, bulkheads, and similar roofing mechanical appurtenances located above the deck level of the roof shall be excluded from the building height calculation, provided, however, that no such rooftop appurtenance shall exceed the deck level of the roof by more than 12 feet. At no point shall the distance between the finished floor and the adjacent grade exceed 5 feet. Because that's such a substantial amendment, it made more sense to just have a first reading so that it can go to the planning board for their consistency review with the master plan, and it would be back to you on November 9th, which is in time for plenty of time for the fairness hearing scheduled for December 15th.
Okay, wonderful. And I know our professionals who were working on this. Our engineer was working on this. I move, thank you, Mr. Carney. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on the first reading, and the township clerk be authorized to have this ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and the hearing on final passage on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, Ms. Gotti?
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman?
Yes.
Just for
Thank you.
clarification, I think Mr. Von Eyck said here. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, he said yes. Okay.
Said yes.
Right.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Ordinance number 2588-2021. I'm scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2588-21, ordinance for passing ordinance on final reading. I present for consideration an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2588-21, an ordinance to amend.
Yes, you might want your.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We got a little ahead of ourselves. Sorry.
Everyone does.
Okay. Ordinance 2588-21. Procedure for passing ordinance on final reading. I present for consideration ordinance entitled 2588-21, an ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances of the Township of Millburn, Chapter 2, Township Officers, subsection 2-12, entitled Qualified Purchasing Agent. The purpose of this ordinance is to create a position of qualified purchasing agent for the Township of Millburn in accordance to NJSA 40A:11-9. Tonight is a time set for the public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with the law. I declare this hearing open.
Oh, good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld.
Good evening.
11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. I just want some clarification because a qualified purchase agent usually is deemed to be a best practice of the state. That I just want to be sure that the duties of the qualified purchasing agent, is it just limited to purchase of goods, or does it also apply to if services are going to be provided to the town? Does he get involved in those type of things? If it is going to be like services, is he involved in the drafting of RFQs or RFPs? I just think that we should all have a basic understanding of what his duties are, because all you did was cite a statute, but I don't think that average person was coming saying that, that explained that the purpose is to help you, because it increases the bid levels. We understand that, but is it just listened to like getting materials, or is it going to be involved in services also? Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Mr. McDonald, do you want to?
Are you going to close the public hearing then?
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, let me close. Okay. I'm sorry. I declare this. Let's just say I move that this public hearing be closed in accordance and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and the township clerk be directed to publish this ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with the law.
So I'm happy to answer the question that Mr. Feld raised. A couple of things. One is that the qualified purchasing agent does increase the bid threshold for the township. When it comes to services, requests for professional, RFPs, RFQs, it does not raise the threshold. Anything over 17.5 would still require a professional service contract, and you still have to get into things that are called window contracts that are between the 17.5 and the 44. However, this saves the municipality the cost of actually having to go out to bid and award to the lowest bidder on projects that fall within that window contract. So his duties, because the next resolution is to potentially appoint the Matt Laracy as the qualified purchasing agent, will be to assist in putting documents together and make sure there's compliance with the current rules, and make sure that there's, that the correct documents are included in any RFP, RFQ, or bid document that goes out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Gotti, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Saul Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 21-290, qualified purchasing agent, QPA. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to resolution 21-290?
No.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve resolution 21-290?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Ms. Gotti, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Miggins,
Yes.
Ms. Saul Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wasserman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Old business. Does any committee member have any other item of old business to address tonight?
I do. I have one thing. Rooftop decks. Somehow that's fallen off the radar. So how do we get rooftop decks and the prohibition of them back on the radar?
I think we just, again, if there was a drafted ordinance placed before the Township Committee. I believe at one of the previous meetings, it was discussed about hearing more about potential areas or other discussion about areas where they may be more permissible, whether that's the B4 district or something like that. If the committee is amenable, we'll explore that and bring it back to the Township Committee for discussion. And we can do that for November 9th. Yep. And I think part of this is then on November 9th, after that discussion, there will be more direction. If the direction is you want to continue with the prohibition in all areas, then that can be introduced on the first meeting of December. It would be a quick turnaround on the ordinance, but it would at least be able to, there's potential for it to get done before then.
And I was hoping in the last discussion that our new planner was going to comment on
yes.
Just comment on it because I'd like to hear from topology on this and get his opinion. I'm in favor of it, but I just want to make sure that there's that we're doing the right thing. I'd like to hear from them.
In favor
Mr.
of
Wasserman, sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Vinay.
Yeah, so I had brought that up in the past as well. And right in the middle, when we were supposed to talk about the rooftop deck prohibition and along with the parking for loading dock needs to be on premises, then it kind of fell off thinking that maybe some of the committee member thinks that it could be okay to have rooftop deck. But since then I've been thinking about, and if Ms. Megan wants to move this, I will support rooftop deck prohibition township-wide on multifamily home.
Right. Well, can we put this on the agenda for the next meeting
for introduction,
invite our planner to speak on this?
Yeah, I'd like to be a little more informed. I'm personally not in favor of a townwide ban on anything. I think we have to look at the areas, and I know my 3 committee members left tonight are all caucusing on their own, and Mr. Vinayak already said he will support Ms. Miggins' townwide ban, but I think we need to find out what our planner says.
I think what we'll do is just we will have the planner provide a memo in his experience or other examples of rooftop deck prohibitions or rooftop deck or where it might make sense and why. That way that can be provided to the Township Committee prior to the November 9th meeting. And then there can be additional discussion on the November 9th meeting. I don't think this would preclude, although it would be a quick turnaround, preclude the committee from getting this accomplished this year. It should be your goal.
Let's definitely invite him to speak on that. Okay, is there any other old business to bring up? So let's transition right to new business. Does any committee member have any other item of new business to address tonight?
So I think whether it's new business or maybe old business, I heard earlier in the meeting that there was some kind of concept plan that was made for the building on the Main Street, the 75 low-income housing unit. I would like to see that plan just to understand what there is and how are we planning those units and where it will fall. So while voting, at least I know what I'm voting for. So not looking to see that concept plan right on the day of voting.
No, Mr. Vinayak, the objective is to make sure that all the township committee members, in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, get to meet with those individuals to look at and discuss that plan prior to the November 9th presentation.
Wonderful. Does anybody? Does any other committee member have any new business to address? Is there anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to move directly into public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. There is a remote option available for this meeting. If you called in and would like to comment, please press 6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads verbatim from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the town clerk's office at townclerk@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 to 3 minute session. You will be prompted when there's 30 seconds remaining. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly. Please direct all comments to me. Each individual will be given one opportunity to make up public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. So we are now open. Please state your name and address.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Oyen Olabi, 46 Maple Street in Millburn. I would like to say that, you know, I wrote a little bit of something to say tonight, but then I had a lot of questions about the flood mitigation and the process and what you all are trying to put in place, which I'll speak on after this. We are an incredible community. The generosity and volunteerism of this community is bar none. I pay tribute to the hundreds of people who have given so generously, to the many in our community who have suffered and who still are suffering. I had no idea that the flood people were going to be here tonight when I wrote this, to be honest. They got the helping hand from our amazing residents and have hope because of it. Let's take this as an opportunity, Millburn. Our residents have acted. Let's respect them. Let's give them the opportunity to be listened to, really heard and included in the decision-making of this township committee. Our community has so much promise and so much to look forward to, the right leadership. When I'm on the dais, I will make sure the undesirable secretive fair share housing settlement can be implemented in a proper way with residents fully involved and able to weigh into what is to come. What would deeply affect their lives and quality of life. Our crown jewels will not be compromised. Our schools will remain at the top of the state with my excellent relationships with our school administrators and board members working hand in hand to make this happen. I will reach out to our community fully with town halls and neighborhood meets and greets. I will come to you and I will listen to what you see as ways to improve our top-notch town. I would never allow this body to transgress in any way the laws of municipalities. We will follow the laws and not look the other way to push someone's agenda. Residents will guide me, our master plan will guide me, and I will work with fellow township committee members to change the tone of this body. Experience and leadership is what we need to ensure that Millburn Short Hills will be the most desired community to live and work in throughout this state. Our residents deserve and will get transparency, accountability, and adherence to the rule of law. And I know we can do better. I will do my best to make sure that we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lobby.
Good evening again. My name is Jeffrey Feld. I live in Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. If you are registered to vote, please vote. If you don't vote and you're registered to vote, you really have no right to complain about how our government will be run because this election is very key. I echo all the comments about the volunteerism that has been displayed by this community. That's what makes Millburn Short Hills. I've been saying this for times, whether it's July 4th committee, the first aid squad, that's what makes this community. As to the stutterism proclamation, Moses stuttered, and he was the greatest prophet. He was humble. And now we're reading, as the Old Testament, Genesis, which is all about deceit, stealing birthrights, marrying the wrong sister, and different things like that. The reason I say this about deceit, we have real serious problems in this community. No one has ever said what happened to the September 9th, $220,000 appropriation that it was denied by the state. No one's really told about certain hearings that occurred in court. There are certain things that have to be told to the society. With all due respect, Deputy Mayor, you told us before that we were getting exceptional services from our legal counsel. I disagree with that. There are certain issues that have to be looked at. One of the issues on your bill list, there's questions about the $220,000 appropriation. When we heard about complying with the law, when you looked at the original bill list that came out on Friday, it showed that there was going to be a requisition signed on the 15th. Beginning of the year, you have deadlines. Today at 4:31, I received a copy of the signed purchase order supporting that appropriation. It was signed today. Under Oprah, I was entitled to have immediate access. These are the little things that build up. I really felt for the people that were here before, and when I agree with them, we had to think of triage and prioritizing. Forget about downtown revitalization right now. Let's focus on flood control. That is what I think the community heard today. When we heard the presentation about converting one-way, two-way streets, I didn't hear anything when the traffic study was done. We've been going through COVID. I don't even know if the numbers are valid. And no one heard anything about what's going to be the effect of all the new units coming in. I think we need a timeout. Let's focus on flood mitigation. I think that's the consensus of this community today.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Careful. Ms. Urso.
Good evening, Perry Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue, Short Hills. I have to tell you, May of 2020, prior to May of 2020, I had a life, I had a business, and I don't have time to come here. And to be honest with you, I had public trust. I didn't have to be here. I could depend on each and every one of you that you were looking out for our best interests. And it's unfortunate that I'm not so sure. And I'm hoping that things will change. Whether it's this election or elections to come in the future, I think we all are here and we all love this community, but I think we all need to listen and work together at some point. So yesterday, we delivered documents yesterday and waiting for court appointment of a mediator for the dispute over the validity of the expanded appointment 5 district SID, funded solely in the calendar year 2020-2021 by taxpayers' trust fund monies. Thank you for doing the right thing tonight by not approving the increase of the township attorney base compensation, who refuses to deliver a written opinion as the validity of the SID. Instead, you should be suing for overpayments with no prior written notice or resolutions in the amount of $2 million over the several years. Try considering hiring our resident who is a law-abiding attorney. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ms. Urso. Anybody else in the room? Ms. Pasternak?
Try it this way. Yes, hi, Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart. I do also applaud the flood mitigation decision in the end. I think that rushing things for political expediency makes no sense. I was talking to a resident today who brought this idea up and I wouldn't have thought about it, but he said the plan that's being discussed, this consensus plan, depends on the weather predictions 3 or 4 days in advance. That's one of the reasons that the Army Corps wouldn't go for something like this. It's very difficult, very unpredictable. He said you could envision multiple drainage and refilling operations each year. What's the cost benefit of that? What would be the impact on the quality of life for the residents? There was nothing done after these 3 huge storms. So why don't we do it right? I mean, I think that that's absolutely correct. And I totally agree with taking that approach. But I also am very empathetic with what I heard here tonight. I know Maggie, you barely escaped with your life. What I witnessed 3 days afterward and went down to see some of those people, I was shocked. I do think we need to all be more empathetic to the residents. And I really do feel that Oyen's statements about listening and focusing on residents is really, really important. I mean, I think we all heard it tonight. And I'd like to extend my hand in any way to try and work together to make that happen. There's no point in fighting. It's stupid. We have to come together. We need to figure out who the best people are for the jobs and get it done. I know there's an election. I know that that's influencing a lot, but at the same time, we all live together. We are all neighbors, and we looked at each other tonight, and it was really heartbreaking. The other thing I wanted to say was about the payment to the Mariziti Falcon. I totally agree. I mean, from everything I've heard here, it seems like there have been a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes. I'm sure that there have been some good things too, but let's take a look. Like, what is going on before we start throwing $100,000 more their way? Why did we end up with bills for redacting their bills as a response to the Oprah request? That seems absurd. The other thing I still have to say to Mr. McDonald, I'm sorry, I sound like a broken record, but it is really weird to go by a restaurant that's been deemed not legally to be there and they're still open serving people. I mean, it's just, I don't know what else to say. I mean, please just let us know. People want to know. I think it'd be great if you could tell them. Okay, I said what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pasternak. Anybody else? Please. Yeah, we'll go to the phones after this. Yeah, please. Please.
All right, Dominique Urso, 521 Millburn Avenue. Thank you. First of all, I came down here from work simply out of the fact of being afraid that I would be cut off, not because I'm breaking the law, simply because I'm saying something that is not a popular say. So to come in person, so I wouldn't be cut off virtually from a Zoom, which is pretty sad. That I don't think you guys should do that, but you do. So simply to break it down for the public, my observations, what I feel everyone else should not be fooled, is unfortunately Tara's not here, but for her to talk and advocate, I heard Nick Volpicelli's name about 20 times 2 weeks ago and again tonight about being inclusive and how majority of the BS she was saying of the committee is not receptive to him because you're not for the same party or you don't have the same values. It should have nothing to do with that. It's about helping the people find the solution to their sufferings. I recall last year during elections that she wasn't so inclusive simply because he was for the opposing team. So back then I have a sharp memory. She made it about party line, but tonight she forgot what she said a year ago. I don't buy the inclusiveness. No one else should be fooled by her either. I'm sorry. I think it's convenience and I don't think it's right. That's the first thing I heard during her mayor's message that I think is a lie to the people. I'm sorry. It's true. As well, I'm an outlier in these meetings. I say that not out of disrespect for age or anything. I'm 25. I don't have to be here. Why I'm here is I care about my community. I grew up here my whole life. I have roots here. My family's established here. We have businesses here. I will be here my whole life. When you have property forever. Why? It's a great investment. So I'm not going anywhere. Okay? I care because people like my family work hard for every dollar. Okay? And when you work hard for that every day, you want to know where your money's going. And when it's going to fraudulent places or frivolous spending, it's not fair. And it's not fair for me and the few people that Oprah request and you find that we dig things. It's not. It's a public record. Why? Because I care to find the facts and where the taxes are going to. Because people work hard for that money. And it's easy just to shell it all out okay? But it's harder when you work for that every day. You want to know where every dime's going. And if it's for right, it's right. But if it's not, like I'm finding, then that's not right, and the people should know. So nothing is hearsay or propaganda. Anyone listening to this, anyone listening to this tomorrow, if you simply open request, you will find the answers. So it's not the same group of people making the noise. It's just a fact if you care to look up public records in the town hall. People need to wake up, see that this is not the leadership for the town, okay? You need honest people who care and are not going to spend frivolously, and listen to the people and not say you have 3 minutes one night and because tonight is the last of election, Tara says you can have all the minutes, no limit. I don't buy it, and no one else should.
Thank you, Ms. Ursa. Who else would like to speak, please?
My name is Al Carlin, 246 Millburn Avenue, Apartment E, Millburn, New Jersey. Just a statement. Last year, I tried to suggest a parliamentarian held up Robert's Rules of Order. I suggested, perhaps some of the community people, it's civics, know when you make a motion, when you don't make a motion, when you can second something. It's simple stuff. I remember this when I was in Washington. They did it somewhat regularly. I've gone to other township meetings at different towns. They seem to be a little bit more civil at certain times as far as making motions and seconding and so forth. It makes things go a little bit easier. Just a suggestion. I think it would be helpful. Second thing was brought to my attention by a resident and another realtor that concerning the affordable housing, about realtors being on the committee. And they asked me to take a look at minutes of other affordable housing committees, other townships, and to be retired and not being able to sleep at night. So I do. And that's what I did. So I looked at Lawrence Township and see who's on their committees and how they run their things and their court orders and so forth. And no, they said they should not have any realtors on the committees because of so-and-so, because they say they're selling a property, and then the deciding of what real estate agents should be hired to sell properties in the future, should properties have to be sold by the town to other states, and which properties should be bought and which properties should be sold. And this was by a realtor that came to me today, or previously, and by a township resident that came to me and called me today. They call me because they know, Al, you've got a big mouth and you don't care because you are who you are. I'm sorry. The other thing is enforcement. And I believe in enforcement because what I did my entire life is comply, comply, comply. Whether I was with General Electric, dangerous goods, can't have dangerous goods on airplanes with animals because the animals might die. I don't care. I like animals, but they shouldn't die on planes. That's the point. And the plane shouldn't go down with people on it. That's the point. And so this is it. So it's compliance, compliance, compliance. And that's what enforcement people are supposed to do. And enforcement people, they issue violations and summonses, and then it's up to the court to decide guilty or not guilty. They issue the violations. They do not make the decisions, hopefully. That's what it's all about. There's one group and there's another group. That's the root law. You know, I'm not that bright, but that's what I believe in. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you. Anybody else? We can just finish. Please come on up, Mr. Heller. Oh, there's nobody on Zoom.
Nobody on Zoom.
Terry Heller, 56 Barron. Hobart Gap. That's my knowledge. We don't have our own traffic expert that's evaluated that traffic light. This is being done by the county. And I'll address Ms. Milligan's comment earlier about traffic getting off the highway and on the highway. It has to do with that as well. I avoid Route 24 to 78 from my home in the Poet section and go downtown and cut through to get to Route 78. People are getting off 78, 24, Route 280, South Orange Avenue, avoid Kennedy Parkway. We sort of have a short memory, since COVID has begun. Traffic was accumulating 24 East, 24 West, 3:30 in the afternoon. You couldn't get on 24. So the traffic light, if we do what this gentleman, administrator, is guiding us to do without guiding you to have our own traffic study done as to how many seconds is going to be the traffic light for the benefit of coming off 24 versus those coming up Hobart. I will fight this as a person who lives in that area. I will rally my neighbors. This is not something that we want to do without us having a greater say as to what's going to be done. That's the one point. Canoe Brook Road, just to put in a little footnote, as we seem to have a changing of the guard and the cabal, we are still at risk for having Canoe Brook Road open to the apartments. It is not closed despite our worthy legal counsel telling us that we, the town, have control over it. But yes, we, the town, have control over it and put a jungle gym or whatever we want on it. But when the residents or the police department or the property owner, who maybe there's an amendment or a motion or some memorandum of agreement, that road may be at open in time. There's a flood again, Kennedy Parkway, if people can't get out, it will get open to the boat section and to the rest of the town. Fair share housing. The two of you sitting in front of me right here, representing us, the town, in your first and second year on the township committee, with this gentleman, again, our township administrator. After 30 years, myself, Mayor Bear, John Buckholtz, Mayor Becker, Maggie, shaking your head yes, sir, for whatever reason, I don't know, but a whole consortium of real estate people, elected officials, who thought better of the DPW than to subdivide it, including yourself, including your predecessor, who all thought it was too dirty, didn't think the property can be utilized, as same thing for the turf grass property. The disservice that you're doing to the town and not having a comprehensive plan, which your own planner, new planner, I think will tell you that as well. This will not go forward. The Fair Share Housing Council, yeah, we need the 75 units. It's going to happen. But to think that you're going to do this as a piecemeal and leave the DPW over there and put this over there, that's wrong. Last, you lie. Mr. Wasserman, you lie. Last year, there was a Mott McDonald plan that you helped squash to this community. It's here 50 some odd pages, which he also squashed. You were on the township committee. It was initiated by Deputy Mayor Prupus. Diane, helped endorse it. You squashed it to the community. Anybody who's listening to this, Mr. Wasserman is lying to you. There's a report out there that we didn't listen to, that we could have lessened the damage of this storm, life, limb, and other things that would have come. Look, you're going to have, until I finish my say, you want to have the policeman remove me? You can, but I'm going to finish. Subsequent to that, there was another proposal given by Mott McDonald. Another proposal that you didn't act upon. Don't lie to the public.
Mr. Heller.
Don't lie to the public. I'm done now.
Thank you so much for your comments. Would any member? Oh wait, there's more. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Stone, please. Mrs. Stone. I apologize.
Nancy Stone, 10 Fielding Road, Short Hills, New Jersey. I asked her to come here. This is a leader you can trust. I want to talk about her leading us forward and having trust in all of you. You already know, not trustworthy, never having that lunch with Mary and I, never going to happen because you're back with your boyfriend again. But bottom line is, this is a woman who I have vetted. Every candidate that I have ever endorsed, I have endorsed with honor
if I can just
and
say,
credibility.
We cannot have endorsement of candidates on
That's not a problem. Sit down. I already endorsed you. Thank you for earning that 100,000 that you're about to get. Thank you for earning the 100,000 that you're about to get. It took an extra 15 minutes. Bottom line is, you are a liar. Carrie and I are in an agreement. We know that the fraud that you staged tonight was appalling. People see right through it and they know the truth. I still have a minute 27, so you're gonna have to listen because you told me to address you and I'm addressing you. And the fact of the matter is, this was the biggest bunch of malarkey that ever was witnessed. Worse than Burke with the Complete Streets. This is Complete Streets 2.0.5. It's unbelievable. How do you have a traffic report during COVID with no traffic? Only traffic is when they have all this construction. We've been under construction for years, I'm 30 years in this town, and we're always doing something. Something's always going on. People go to other towns because it's freer and it's empty stores now. So now you're going to put all this money. If you cared about the town, you would have opened up the meeting with the flood mitigation for those poor people in South Mountain that were suffering, and those people that came earlier left their children home. And we're here at 10:30. And just like this Mayor Yum Yum walks out of the building the night of the flood, she walks out tonight to see her mother at 10 o'clock at night. If she cared so much about her mother, she would have stayed. I have 10 seconds left.
Out of line, Mrs. Stone.
Too bad. Too bad. And the bottom line is, yeah, keep banging it, okay? If she cared so much about the people, she cares about her mother the way she cares about the people of this town. Not at all, because she would have been at the hospital.
Thank you, Mrs. Stone. Mrs. Stone.
Oh, crap.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Stone. Is there anybody else in attendance that would like to make a comment? Is there anybody else? Okay. Does any committee member, my fellow committee members?
Sorry, you just want to close public comment,
Right,
just so that everybody's clear that it's over.
Close public comment. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Does any of my fellow committee members have any responses to anything that was said? Mr. McDonald, do you want to respond to anything that was said tonight?
Yes, I'll respond to Mrs. Pasternak's comment regarding Bacone South. And also provide an update to the Township Committee and the community. Last night, the resolution was memorialized. A letter had gone out from the zoning officer that once that letter was memorialized, they will have 30 days to vacate the property. They will be closed by November 18th. As I stated to individual and Mrs. Pasternak in an email to me, soon enough, they will close. They have the right to have that resolution be memorialized. Now they've been given notice. That way they can allow their employees notice. They can close the doors. They can sell their inventory. They can do whatever it is that they need to do to shut down. But Bacone South will be closed on November 18th.
Yeah, I do have a couple last comments. I think it's sad that Bacone is closing. I think people really like their food. I don't know, really, they might not have done the right thing, but then to have the community come out and attack them, I hope they're able to open somewhere else. I think it's sad that instead of opening businesses, we're losing Bacone. I don't know why the building next still has a gaping hole in it. I think that's, I know, I'm talking, I think it's sad that Jersey Mike's didn't, you know, this is, I'm going to stop speaking because there's children in the audience and it's time for everyone to go home and go to bed.
All right. Okay. All right. Does anybody, Mr. Carney, is there anything else you'd like to say? Okay. So can I have a motion?
Wait, I do want to say one thing.
Yeah, please.
As far as the Flood Mitigation Committee, and this is very important, everybody knows this. When this was first brought up, the chairperson of the board shall be one of two township committee representatives and will be appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the township committee. The advice and consent. I was told on October 1st, I sent an email after I was told that the committee had already been picked. I was not asked my advice. I did not give my consent. I asked everybody here, and it can be open. I asked everybody on this committee and the business administrator to please, let's have a meeting before anyone's chosen. And on 10/4, so that was on Friday at 3:30, I sent everybody an email. I sent an email to you, Ms. Zeklo, and to Mayor Prupus and everyone else. Nobody responded. On October 4th, we received an email that the committee had been chosen without the advice and consent of the township committee. That was written right in there. I'm a rule follower. I like to follow rules. Nobody followed the rules with that one. So what you see tonight is about rule following. And what you see tonight is, yes, we want to help the people in South Mountain. Yes, we want to help the people in Glenwood. I did a tremendous amount of research for item articles. We could go all the, this is May 1939. Flood control and sewer projects. The Great Flood of 1886. I've got more articles than you can shake a stick at from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. We've been living with this for a very, very, very long time. And it's almost like a whack-a-mole. We fix one thing and then something else happens. And then we fix another thing. So there is no magic bullet. We're going to work very hard on this committee. And we do think it's important that the people on the committee, that we don't have any conflicts. How many times this evening you had to walk out because you had to recuse yourself because it could have been a conflict? There's no reason we should start out a committee with conflicts, with possible conflicts with people being on this committee. So this committee is very important to me. I did lose my car. Mr. Wasserman, another gentleman from Seton Hall, helped me get out of my car. My car is lost, gone. So I understand what they're, and it was frightening. It was most frightening. Mr. Heller said he saw me sitting in my car, left me there. How's that? No, I'm not. That's the truth. That's the truth. So I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Storm of the century. Storm of the century. So anyway, I just want people to know that we are working hard on this. We are working diligently on this. We think it's really important. And we think that the committee was so cumbersome.
Mr. Heller, that's enough. Mr. Heller, that's enough. Mr. Heller, that's enough. Mr. Heller, that's
our town. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Mr. Heller, no, I'm not.
Mr. Heller, that's enough.
No, I'm not.
That's enough. That's enough. Thank you.
Listen,
I'm
our
sorry.
town has suffered long enough, and so please. You know, I've lived in this town for over 25 years. It is very important to me. I've paid taxes in this town for over 25 years. And nobody should question my motives where this is concerned. This is really important to us. So I just want everyone to be aware of the fact that what Mr. Wasserman did tonight, what Deputy Mayor Wasserman did, was the right thing to do for our town, for our community. We're going to be building fair share housing. We don't know what that type of impact will have on our waterways when we're putting 150 units at one place or 75 at another. So this is important. And that's why I'm thrilled that he is serving on this committee, as is Committeeman Vinayak. So thank you.
And I just want to piggyback on one thing. I just want to pledge to the residents that have suffered that came tonight and thank them for coming. And I want to pledge that we will move expeditiously as possible to do everything we can.
Amen.
I just want to say that on the record, and we're not going to miss a beat on this. I promise. All right, with that, can I have a motion? Oh, is there anybody else on the?
No, we're good.
Okay. Can I have a motion to close?
Close. Motion.
Okay. Good night, Millburn Township.